positioning.
Your Wi-Fi position?
Trying to get my Wi-Fi positioning for.
You know what? I got it with MSD.
Upstairs.
It works upstairs.
In bed, above where we are, up back, and it works at 5 bars, 1080. I have a plug upstairs, but that's gonna. I haven't been dicking around. It's kind of time of day. I think with 8 people in the building, actually has an effect.
Where the transmitter is in that.
See if you can. And it's totally.
Is it a legit connection? Like, are you paying for it, or is
Oh
the
yeah,
landlord
yeah,
paying
no,
for it?
yeah. It's like 35 down, 5 up. It's as fast as they can do upload wise.
Sometimes when you have a shared connection.
No, it's not shared at all. Oh, now it's on 5. Let's see what. It's weird because if it stays on 5 for like 30 seconds, it seems to fucking stay on 5. Doesn't like vary. Now it's not pulsing or anything. It seems like, I mean, that's kind of funny that's what I need to do to get 5 bars right there. I like it. Anyone else would be like, dude, you're very unprofessional. You're using quick clamps.
That's
like I got them on fucking sale, dude.
I think that's awesome. I'm actually going to take a picture of that.
I added pistachios to your list of dream room activities.
That sounds fantastic.
Sometimes, like, if I went up talking as much as usual, at least you'd have something to like your fucking jaw so you don't let me talk. Right?
Yeah, my jaw doesn't atrophy in the process of having the conversation.
And I broke my mug today, so I'm going into a Pyrex.
Well, borrow silica glass.
I called my kid's mother brother, my brother outlaw. I called my silica nigger. Yes, sir. I couldn't call him Sammy. They called me a coffee user. Yeah, that's like a part of the talk. I use it. I don't play the silica nigger. Oh, you don't banana protein drink or you have put shit now?
That sounds great.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that is, but I'm down.
Just a little, just a banana, almond milk, and protein powder and chocolate. Alright.
I'm hitting my macros. Fantastic.
Yeah. I really don't remember how much I ate today. I'm probably about to the phone. Maybe next episode I'll be slow and compare the rest of the usual full of VR and little missing. I don't want to buy it. Sorry? The Vive or Hive, what is the VR by HTC? The Vive, right?
The Vive or the Vive or something like that.
I hear it's good. There's the Oculus. I'm like, yeah, Oculus is pretty cool, but you can't move.
That's the Valve product, right? Where they're having some kind of collaboration with Valve and stuff like that.
I think Oculus is definitely doing the
Steam, Valve, Steam.
Yeah. Okay, I've seen it. This is actually. I like that. I like to get something. Once or two, I should like 3 hours on playing basketball. It was so bad that I couldn't wait. today again. I didn't feel sore this morning for the first time in forever, so I went again today, and I was horrible. And then it's almost all like I was playing, so if I don't play well, I'm kind of looking at the odds and shit. And I'm thinking about things so much, like I'm shooting really well, and I'm practicing, and I go to a game, and I'm not focusing on the rim, I'm just missing everything, and I'm struggling to get the ball. That's really fun, because then I don't have much confidence, I start complaining a little bit. You gotta get, like, I'm playing defense, I'm stopping this guy, you gotta get, like, you guys are taking shots from fucking 80 feet out and missing them. Like, it's a really big difference. Like, we're all fucking up there. Yeah. Sometimes I call them racism. There's always one white guy and nine black guys. What is the reason? So it's nothing personal. Like, I'd rather it was personal. But I think it's worse than personal. I think it's racist. No, I think it's funny. Discriminating one white guy in basketball.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
I think it's hard to justify any specific act by saying slavery. I think that's slavery. I should be able to do this.
I always said that if black people wanted to forgive us for that, they could do things like cross the street slowly and look at us, no problem. You know, you're walking really slowly and ugly, like when there's a green light. Okay, fine, that's cool. It'd just be a signal, like, yeah, thank you for forgiving our ancestors for what they've done. I'm not going to get mad at the fact that you're staring at my face and walking at 0.004 feet per second. Alrighty then. So what's new? How long has it been?
Week and a half, 2 weeks. It's
2 weeks?
Sunday, about 2 weeks.
Oh, mine is cold. Is your coffee cold?
Mm-hmm.
I can microwave it if you want mine. Oh, I put creamer in there, so that probably knocks the temperature down pretty fast.
That's weird.
So when is tax season over? Are you done with accounting when tax season's over? Or?
I'm almost done. I have. You mind if I connect your Wi-Fi here?
No, go ahead.
I just need to check my email one more time and get it working for whatever reason.
Password should be. I think it's. Fuck this. I have to check. Oh, you fuck this shit.
I take it that you had a good opportunity, good experience setting up the Wi-Fi.
It was for my nephew who was crashing here. At some point, he hadn't paid like $700, so I decided I was going to appropriate his PS4 to play Fallout 4. And he took it away for a couple of days and didn't bring it back in time, so I changed the Wi-Fi to Deadlock, and I think the password was fuck this shit. Like, you said you're gonna come back. I want to burn out on Fallout. I've played 68 hours. Should be Deadlock, and fuck this shit. If not, I'll turn on that.
That might have been good.
Tell me if not, or I'll
Yeah,
just.
no, it looks good.
Good?
It's fuck this shit. No
Yeah.
doubt.
I also could go with a hotspot. I have not been using all that much.
Deadlock.
Deadlock.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Fallout 4. All the game mechanics with power armor were really cool, especially given that the game introduces you to power armor immediately, and you get a little taste of it, and then you're kind of looking for it for the rest of the game.
The thing is, I always fuck up. It's like having nachos and cheese. You know, having a power armor and fusion cores. Like, how much do you use at a time? You know, you don't want to have.
It's hard to say.
Well, I know what I do. I'm left with 46 power cores because I don't use them. And then I run around for an hour after I've basically beaten the game and I'm bored as fuck and it's over. And then I hate the game and I hate all the time I spent it playing the game. And I don't have a PC, so I can't build really high. There's a ceiling on my settlement construction. So I went to build this massive pyramid and I just got fucking top cock blocked and that was it.
Can you run it through crossover?
I mean, you could if you had a Mac Pro with Parallels or what's it? Crossover.
Crossover.
Is that what it's called?
I think it's called. Like that's and it might be an old name for it.
All I know is Parallels and Boot Camp, but probably just a third party to run Windows on a Mac.
It's to run Windows software within Mac OS.
Oh, with it? Oh,
And
all of it. So it's kind of the same
with
thing, different
some-
route.
With some, yeah, it's a different route. It's not like Parallels. Parallels, you virtualize the entire operating system. Boot Camp is just a way of installing another OS on a hard drive,
Rebooting.
on a hard drive, and then Crossover is neither. It's a series of libraries that take the Windows function calls and then map them to Mac function calls. It's for Linux too. It's based on a really big software project called Wine. And Wine Wine is an acronym for Wine is not an emulator, because that was a subject of confusion. But it's a compatibility layer that takes the Windows system calls and then maps them to whatever the local system call is.
It's easy if we wanted to create an app that was Mac versus PC. So on a server side, if you're meeting at the server, it doesn't matter if you have different operating systems. You can write a dual-sided game on a server, or a virtual, like where you cannot be on a PC team if you're a Mac user. You just can't. Like, it's not compatible to enter the fucking virtual reality or the game. You must pick a side dependent on your operating system.
Well, we'd
Operating system.
we'd have to give them like some kind of mechanical advantage. I mean, there's fewer Mac users, so we'd have
No,
to
it was a
say,
handicap. It was a handy Mac.
Well, a handy move.
I don't know. Or you just say only as many PC players can enter a realm as there are Macs. Think about the asymmetrical warfare that you could create. They're totally different ecosystems. People choose for different reasons, but there is an average difference, I think,
There probably is an average difference.
which would make a world war, an operating system world war fantastic.
Well,
Fantastic Mac, whatever. I speak to 7-year-olds. They don't judge me.
I understand.
I judge me. Sometimes I say things that they like.
I don't judge.
I don't know where that came from. But
I'm anti-judging.
oh, Fallout playing. Oh, just today they said the PS4 can be played on a Mac,
PS4.
remote.
Really?
But PS4 was the problem. That's why I was level capped vertically in construction.
Right.
Fallout 4.
Right.
It's cool though, and I tried to get my friend, or I offered him to forgive him if he bought one high-end PC station with an HTC Vive. I think it's Hive. HTC Hive.
That
'Cause
sounds about right.
It sounds
too.
board
It's
eating.
something like that.
It's a good system. I've never used VR. There's so many technologies that I haven't gone in, but I think there's going to be sandboxes, right? There's going to be sandboxes that are not just Minecraft. Like you're going to walk in, and if you want, you could pick up and plant a fully developed house in the real world with real pricing, adapted to the zip code that you place that home in. No, there's no reason why you may have to go 4K. I think that's the big jump when you build a virtual reality system with two 4K screens. 8K VR, like four per, is not supportable by a home computer. You can't do it unless you're rich. You need to spend like $17,000 on a computer to get it to support even 4K resolution in virtual reality.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to get rid of the wire. That's why there's an opportunity to build the VR arcade. We can get ahead of them. When there's a year difference between when something's available in the consumer market and the arcade market, the professional market, you have a business if there's demand. A lot of people have never tried it, and if you let them try it with you first, it's like scuba diving in the Caribbean. You're not going to go scuba diving in Lake Chautauqua and be happy after. You may buy one for home, but you're going to come back and get our crap.
Maybe that's the truth.
And I've never been in it. I think I'm better at judging it by not having been like proselytized by immersion in it and seeing other people's shit.
So you have an idea of what you want to see.
And it's limitless. It's fucking limitless. We can put ourselves in anything. And I know it's just technology and the resolution will never be actual reality, but you know what? It might. It actually might. If you take a virtual reality and you can bridge the gap like with a panoramic between a digital feed and a real world feed that can supersede or mix with it, you can be in VR in certain aspects. Certain, if you're looking to, can be real time or 5-second delayed.
No, let
From-
me ask you.
from a drone in the future.
Let me ask you. How much do you look at print quality when you have a piece of printed paper? You have a
It's always good enough. I
flyer,
mean,
a brochure.
it's always good enough. It's fine.
It's always good enough. So, and there are people that can tell minute differences. Like they can say, this was printed on a printer that used RGB coloring. This was printed on a printer that used, CMYK coloring or whatever it is.
Right.
This was on an edited color model. This was on a subtracted color model. And people can make those determinations. And other people and companies that do things like paint blending, you can have like 16 base colors, whereas a printer does 4 base colors. So,
What's the fourth?
well, there's 3 base colors in black. So
Black.
cyan, yellow, magenta, and black.
There's some really cool white and black shit. I don't know if we talked about it last time. We won't go into it, but like one absorbs all, one reflects all. Like there's something to the colors. And I told you about black powder.
No, you
You've
haven't.
seen powder?
No.
You've heard of it?
No.
Powder the movie. The albino white guy with natural energy powers.
No. Did not see it.
I want to make black powder. He was super white. I want to make one. Like, what would happen if you had the same powers, but you weren't like really so worried about your personal problems? You looked at the world and you're like, hey, wait a minute, we're part of a race that is still too connected to our enslavement. You get a buzz and be like, stop talking about slavery and Hitler, Jesus. No, not
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Jesus.
with a literal.
Jesus, like, just stop it. There's no slavery, no Hitler. Like, it's not fun.
It can be. It can be a fun topic of discussion. But
How about virtual reality?
It's
And if you say it to a kid, they'll be like, I don't know how to spell either one. I'm 4.
Exclusively birch trees. There's nothing but birch trees and birch.
I didn't say virtual. I said bird
Oh,
shit.
oh,
I said
bird-
bird shit reality.
Bird shit reality.
Oh, dude, bird shit reality. If you could fly over a virtual reality and be a bird and look down and snoop on people and shit on them, or try, like you target it, like one of those addictive like bombing games, like for a day, like flying and you have momentum and you just gotta wait and wait and wait.
Shit on the Trump rally over here on the 17th coming up.
Drones aren't just going to be dangerous; they're going to be annoying, and they're going to be incredibly liberating and privacy violating.
Did I say about the drone shooter?
Yeah, the
The
shotgun.
Yeah, shotgun. Guy had a drone hovering in his backyard, and he has like a 17-year-old daughter or something.
What about that though? I could ask them like, okay, now audience, what's he so excited about? Tell me right now. Okay, he's just going to keep going. But if you know what he's talking about, stop it and record it before you've ever seen it. All you got to do is sign a disclaimer with us. I'm not cheating. And I'm going to take a polygraph and say, did you cheat or did you not cheat? Did you just come here, listen, and respond, or did you find some way to trick the system and pretend like you had this idea? If they pass the polygraph and it says, essentially, this is done without pretense, versus, saying that and lying. Everyone's going to say it's done without pretense. They'd be like, what do you do if somebody's in the gray area? I don't care. Go on. It's totally fine.
Okay, so what were we talking about? We were talking about drones.
Some tree shit,
Shooting down drones.
bird shit reality.
Bird shit reality. Birch reality, which is nothing but birch trees exclusively. And you can
There's
also
this
do
birch
woodworking.
society, though, that might be, it could be like a birch society reality. Virtual? You said virtual?
Or yes, virtual. Or alternatively, the Birchfield Penny could have something to do with virtual reality.
The Birchfield.
They have a surrealist on staff. Why not?
People have to be like willing to be stupid. At this point, 1,000 people could be listening to us, and they could be like writing down on their fucking etch-a-text. It could be. I don't write etch-a-text because I want an etch-a-text bad. All I have is paper.
Wait, I had a point in there somewhere that got lost.
Yeah, me too. Just now.
Wait, okay, what were we talking about before virtual reality?
Bird shit reality, virtual reality.
Okay, before that.
Why though? Like what?
Before that, how did we get there?
Are you quizzing me?
Yeah, I am.
I don't know. That's your job. Should you choose to accept it? Your mission.
There was something. Hold on.
You forgot too?
Yeah, there was
You're not testing
there
me.
was
You were tricking me into thinking that you were testing me.
No, there's something important. Or arguably important.
I think if you put people in the right position, we have to make this a game, right? Like I'm the reigning champion. Like you're like they're like, dude, Paul's gonna be him. Paul's gonna be him. It's all democratic. The audience decide who wins. If you win, like you're the new, like you take power.
Whoever can sidetrack the other best.
Soft power, flaccid power.
Why not like priapism power?
What kind?
Priapism power.
I don't know what that is.
The opposite of being flaccid. It's having an erection that can't go away.
Priapism?
Priapism.
I think I read that, but never pronounced it in my mind. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
I had said it,
Yeah, I have a lot of words that do that to me. You know, I've been a, you know, it took a while for me to figure out how to pronounce reciprocity because, you know, often
practice helps. That's how you produce reciprocity.
Yes. Yeah, practice. Yeah, practice. Practice.
Practice
Helps reciprocity.
doesn't make perfect. But like you get people watching, okay, and you say, listen, you know what's different in the future? Like now is the future. That any one of you can respond at any time and hijack the show. Now, if you're no good, no one's going to pay attention to you. You have to get some attention for yourself. You have to bring some attention to your subreddit. Only a small number of people have to actually watch your segments as part of their fucking job. Like, we have to go over everything for at least 27 seconds. If you miss something that's ingenious, so what? The person that did it should know that it's ingenious and push it more. You know, give it another fucking chance. And your overall credibility is everything. Credibility of the film is just like one of 6 films. It takes 6 films to explain like a giant vision, and credibility is just one, and it doesn't even have, it just tells a little tiny bit while entertaining people. We have the creatives to do that. There's no like magic way. You need creative people who care and who have passion and who have good stories. It's not entertainment's not
I
magic.
kind of like the idea of a color you're on the air model.
Or you're not. Yeah, you could be.
You could be.
You could be fine. You're
I
in the air,
like
not
the
on the air.
idea.
In the air.
Well, yes, you could be Wi-Fi, in which case you're in the air.
You might be probably Mythorca or something better than Mythorca. You'd be a fucking giant, like incredibly ambidextrous. See, I get stuck up in thinking like, is it a 4K or an 8K or a 16K whale? Like
Well,
able to
well,
speak
yeah.
with tremendous
That was the point I was
bass.
trying to make with the print technologies and, you know, CMYK and RGB. You know, 4K, there are probably people
print-
that can't.
It's on PrinterNet again.
They
Go
have
ahead.
right, that 4K, the print quality is always good enough. So you never look at a printed page and you say, man, this page is in really low resolution unless it's not.
4K is good enough,
Yeah,
isn't it?
4K might be. It might be good enough,
I mean, depending on scale, also.
depending on scale. Well, there's going to be a point at which, you know, how much information can your eyes take in? So if it's 16K and you have VR goggles on, that might be saturation. That might be it.
Probably make a fortune in filters. I think one definitive filter that accepted that you have all this fucking data, and we can interpret it so you can't really see it all. You can't. So we're going to modify it. You know, maybe 50,000 times. Like a machine is going to do the modification and like write the remixes, but people are going to be exposed to it very quickly, and they're going to give sort of off-the-cuff, natural impressions that are the best in the world at one point. Like, our people are legitimate. They can predict the future. So they started writing it. I mean, that's kind of what I think of. Like, I could do normal shit in the world, and I would rather create something new because hopefully I can get just past that just by seeing it in everybody else.
Well, you're kind of
The way things are is the way things are now.
doing that when somebody writes science fiction, they kind of are writing the future. I mean, Neil Stephenson did a pretty good prediction of online communities and things like, you know, VR and to a lesser extent, but primitive forms like Second Life, when he was in a crash in 1994, and you know, not 10 years later, there were people that were antecedents of that. And now, you know, VR is getting to be a real thing.
VOUR.
VOUR.
Devour. Like these nuts. Devour. I think it's VR arcades. Like, they have to be collectively owned. That's the way to get the most utility into a building with the greatest efficiency at the lowest price. It's for everybody who's doing it to do it themselves and say, we're paying enough money every month to pay for everything that it takes to make ketchup, plus more. So we can do what it takes to build a virtual reality, a collective virtual reality network and have people in those seats 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. It basically has to be, because you need to be over the top in terms of what would have been your profit. Like, you can do that if you have members. Some people are night owls. Some people wake up at 5 in the morning and would come in for an hour. There might be a dead time in the early morning, and that's when we actually hire people and be like, listen, you're third shift, motherfucker. Like, you need to go in here and find holes. This is a bag of water, and you need to find holes from the inside. And you have no flow sensor. You got to find them some other way. You can't just swim around fast and feel shit sucking through a fucking hole or blowing out the hole. I don't fucking know.
What if you were on the outside and you had like some soap and you could the soap on the outside of the bag, and then you would look for bubbles in the soap, and you would find it.
That'll probably be fine. But you're on the outside, so no.
Of course, we're talking about metaphorically, so I don't know what the soap would do. I don't know what the soap is in this metaphor.
I realize that there are things I won't say. There's ideas that, like, I think some of my ideas are stupid, or I say cheesy things. Like, there's some I won't say. There's not very many. There's one that I just wouldn't say. Like, I edit myself a little bit, but on the bottom, I don't get too strict. If it has legitimate possibility, I continue to consider it. I think I've spoken to some people and given them my dumbest ideas, and they've been like, "That's really good." Some people think it depends on their perspective.
Well, there are things that on the face don't appear to be that clever, but ultimately which ultimately can be successful.
And some that look so clever, they're unbelievable. They seem too good to be true. Like they're too obvious.
Actually, I think there's plenty of examples that exist right now that if you had told me about them before launch, I would have said, no, that's retarded. Nobody would like that. I mean, okay, I'm going to start a microblogging service. You only have 140 characters. I would have said that's retarded. But we have
that's ridiculous. But that's a weird branch.
But it's
that struck something in people that they like. In the absence of greater technology and networks.
But I also think it's still kind of retarded. I mean, Twitter's still kind of retarded. And maybe it wasn't a good idea because it still hasn't. I think they had one profitable quarter. In their entire existence, they've had one profitable quarter. I mean, don't quote me on that one or put it on.
What about Uber? You would have predicted Uber. And Uber, like a company like Uber, they could. I wonder what kind of freedom they have with their investment contracts with venture capitalists to change their whole fucking direction, or just like largely to split into two and say, dude, we can't pursue both of these as part of the same company. We'll share an accounting department, but and maybe even a property. But we need to operate two different companies and maintain two different perspectives.
I assume they're seat perfect, right? Like everyone else is. So is it
democracy? Who?
No.
Uber?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Uber, please. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it is. I know that it's not a cooperative. I know that you can strike Uber, go back to regular cabs or buses. Just buses. You can strike Uber with buses and with a temporary crutch network. Say, listen, if you use Uber and you want to participate in this strike, there's an app called, Uber Strike. And you go there and it connects you with other people and it replicates the company using all the excess processing power available on your phone. Now, yes, you need to wear a belt with batteries or more likely a backpack. So, 3 pounds on your waist is a little ridiculous. 3 pounds on your back is possibly not noticeable.
We issue a gun belt, with everyone's device with their 3 pounds of batteries, and that should be adequate for the 3 pounds.
You know what, dude? If you have the belt on, I told you I'm wiring up my side, the little red and black wire, up to my ring, because I'm gonna have multiple rings. Like my guy's like Batman, but fucking nuts, and he thinks that he can save the world not by fighting these bad guys. He can't. He's afraid of them. By inventing shit and you instead of the military equipment, more self-defense, and he's not gonna have 10 rings, but maybe the controllers need power to operate inside of Mindspace or Spacebook. It's a virtual reality, and why is it the most popular in the world? Not because we're little fucking jerk-offs like Zuckerberg certainly was. I don't know, because it would be yours. It would literally be yours. And, before you sign on, you have to come to realize that this brings so much efficiency to my life that it is essentially free. And it's brilliant. You know what? It's 2018. I've seen virtual reality. I know what it can be like at the peak. If you come to one of these arcades, which is where we build our fucking company, where would we build our company? Inside of the greatest virtual reality simulation in the world. On top of Google Earth, we wanted to do real estate. We would map everything. And it would, people have cell phones. You can stitch images together all the way around the world. People could do what Google Earth does.
Yes.
Fast, better in terms of the local area.
Yes, absolutely.
And you could inflate their pictures or something. It's all that shit's coming. Who's gonna fucking own it? And is it gonna is it going to be in an era when we realize that we need phenomenal economic prophecies? Most of them fail. Some of them are entertaining, but we need them. We need to map shit out. We need to use these empty universal spaces to get ahead of ourselves, or at least catch up in theory. Like if we could do a lot in 2 or 20 years, like what would we do?
Have you heard of OpenStreetMap?
Vote in street map?
OpenStreetMap, OSM.
I think I've
OpenStreetMap
heard.
is kind of like a Google Maps substitute, except all of the data is open source. You can take it. You can.
From drones. I mean, how do we do maps?
That was manual. OpenStreetMap was mostly manual. They took some existing public domain data, but most of it's user submitted, and they used that to build the maps. And that's
Like endpoint, like not like major high, like they just took pictures of major. Like how did they do it with GPS? Like were they drawing? Can you do that with GPS?
Can you draw a map with GPS?
Can you draw shit on the United States with fucking GPS? And at what you can, but at what resolution?
You can
The constellations in the United States.
The good GPS, the high resolution one is 1 meter. So it's
So across 10 miles, that's a really straight fucking line. It's not that this is a lot, you know, for like light to vary or something or an image, but
oh sure, but for a map,
you could literally pretend, dude, we need to make this movie about this crazy satellite in space. I'll be the crazy satellite. He's before the singularity, but after he's reached parity with human beings, and like he's actually realizing now that like he can do better than them. Like he can see things they can't. He's a fucking satellite. He's a ingenious satellite, and he's looking down on the Earth, and he can look at the Earth and imagine shit. It's a visualizer. It's a virtual reality where you look at the Earth and you see it change by like years, depending on different people's plans, and you can zoom the fuck in. And sometimes there's nothing there. You know, like it's a fucking dead end. But if you really want to see that, you can maybe go in and draw a stick figure, like a storyboard. Like this is Choose Your Own Adventure. Here's my fucking storyboard. Like I want this to keep going here. And you know, maybe like a Borg or ants, you get a lot of people that would swarm and like, all right, we'll form a division, a little Democratic division quickly. Like if somebody has a great idea, hopefully we all just support it and we do it like he was an individual producer. If not, maybe we bring a lot of, you know, we make it a contest and say whoever wins gets access to everyone else's ideas. Like if you run for the presidency and you don't win, like you are the bitch of the guy who did. Like, and then Google bitch. But that other film, like when I got all excited like 2, 3, or 4 minutes ago, that's important. And Google bitch is cool though too.
Google bitch.
I would do Google bitch. I'd be like Uber, like Uber bitch. What's the other one? I think it would be Alex Uber bitch. I could change my name to Uber bitch. Like we'll do anything for you, dude. I'm in India. I can't drive you around. But digitally, in terms of being a secretary, I'm better. And I'll do it with an accent. I would just have the accent. Oh, the satellite thing. I'm like, think about that. Like you go into virtual reality and you're a fucking satellite looking at the Earth, but you can zoom in way faster than I can like zoom into Google Earth on my computer, which is smooth. And it's not bad. It's pretty, you know, if you looked at it 20 years ago, you'd be like, fuck, like it's the Earth or something. But the closer you get, in Street View, you just see these crazy ass fragments, you know? The open mapping thing is really the way to do it, especially if the open mapping works with like a union or some kind of a collective venture in Sweden or something that organizes people, brings in some money, and sends out certain like super recorders, like camera mechs basically, and to certain locations to make them appear live. Isn't that the holy grail? Live VR. I mean, liver.
Liver. I have liver. Yes, liver.
Liver.
Well,
I can be one of the great talks, but dude, you had such a good idea. Your name, like, what happened? What happened with that? Liver.
liver.
It's horrible. It's inexcusable.
Live?
No, I'm gonna fuck up
no.
live VR as an idea, not just my idea, but by saying liver, I could go off down a rabbit hole. Instead of building a branch somewhere else, I'd be like down underground, like searching for nutrients, nutrients, miscreants. I never really thought of that. I was gonna say when we talked in the first couple of minutes, like I don't like visualize things, like see pictures. When I have an idea, I usually don't see it. You know, words. I can't focus on it. It's there though, and I can see it with words and with my mind. But maybe if I started drawing, it would help me, even if I'm not good.
I don't think it could hurt to start drawing.
Couldn't, could it? I draw with my feet on the fucking ground, no problem, like scratching my dog. I'm not saying I was gonna do that.
No, you could do that. You could get like an easel.
What if you had to spend $1 million on a fucking virtual reality sphere. Like, what would you want? Can you realize we're at the point when you can almost do it and make it truly insane?
I don't know if $1
Like-
million would be adequate to get
It's close.
what they're looking for.
A 13-foot diameter sphere, a pair of virtual reality glasses with 8K, and requiring so much data that when you're going into this world, you're actually only local. Like, it's all local. Like at the highest speed, only the 13 people in that arcade at that time connected to the program of like the simulation itself, and we're a skin on it, but the Earth itself, and not even like melted core and solid core, like nothing like that. I mean, the live VR and the seeing of a non-live VR, but like seeing an Earth that looks real, but you can tell it's animated, but it's beautiful. We'll be there, and it's less disturbing to see an almost perfect Earth than an almost perfect animated woman or man.
Right.
People freak you out. The Earth wouldn't freak you out. I'd be like, oh my god, like Zootopia. I mean, it's not. Give Zootopia 20 years, and you'll know it's unreal, and you'll believe it. You'll be like, holy shit, it is the future. That's why it's the fog of the future, like the fog of war. There's a fog of the future.
Well, the uncanny valley effect is where it's very close but not quite. And if you can get within a certain margin of perfect, you don't get the uncanny valley.
But that's
you
what
get right there.
that's
You
what
get
life though.
almost
That's what
perfect.
living things.
With
That
the
doesn't address factories and like solar plantations that are
buildings
concert
and
arenas.
trees
It's
and-
different.
Absolutely.
A whole different world. You can build those, and with the right lighting simulator, it all looks very fucking real. Like, what does it take to build an operating universe? Google Earth doesn't happen in an operating universe, right? I mean, we'll have to fudge factor outside of the solar system probably, but
Wachowski knows somebody who does something like this. He does algorithms to simulate weather in video games. That's his specialty.
I mean, the time space thing we talked about. Even if there's nothing in there, it's a fucking platform. Yes, it takes some resources to operate, and that's why we say, come to our fucking company, give us $10 in investment, we'll hand you a piece of stock, and you can go in virtual reality like you've never seen for a fucking hour. Invest in us. The reward is worth your whole investment.
I'm not saying the swastika you were talking
Good,
about.
good. Because we're talking about the opposite of swastikas and the opposite of Nazis. Sometimes we'll talk about Nazis. If there weren't a lot of Nazis, I wouldn't need to be me. If everyone could see, I'd be fine. I'd be like, okay, good. Like, we're on the same page. Like, we realize, like, what we can't see. A lot of people actually, for like the next 200 years, still get high some of the time. Because it disconnects them from their memory and elevates their perception, and they see the world like having popped above the top of the walls of the topless box. Like, I'm in the box myself. I live in a box. Like, if I'm down to earth and I'm not doing anything to really look through it or past it, I accept the world. Like, I'm almost functioning.
The most successful person I know, and probably the person with whom I'm best aligned, is also Spunk Fun. So absolutely the most successful person I know. Guy's a web developer and he deals at like $168 an hour, and he likes to have he says that he smokes weed to say, okay, I'm done. I'm not working. I'm not going to put any more effort into here. I'm good for now. I'm good for today.
Do you have people that I should know, or say if I made a show one day and it was good, like, you know what, fuck it, that was a good show, and I want my friends not only to watch it, with a disclaimer, like, watch this when you're ready for a certain kind of thing. I don't know if you start, come back in a year, it doesn't matter, but like, you can take away from this enough to know whether to never be bothered by these people again, or to be like, to connect with them in some kind of network forever. Like, first impressions don't mean maybe that much, but they're obviously kind of important too.
Right, and to growing your, lack of a better term, to growing your brand, to growing your mind share. Mindshare is probably the bigger
Mindshare.
brand. Mindshare.
Mindshare?
Yeah, Mindshare.
That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
in a way.
Oh.
It's not. It might be a triple entendre.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's a couple of things there. There's
Those are just like 1 in 1,000. Quadtendres, factors,
Quadtron.
rarer. Quadtendre.
Quadtundra.
If you could end up at the end of a game, you know the little thing you drop it, and if it falls in the right hole, you get money. Like you could end up at Quadtendre. Instead of like 0 cents, like you put a quarter in it, it bounces down. If you hit the jackpot, you get $1 million. Like it's things that it ends up. It's like a tree and it's blown up, or it goes out randomly though, and that's kind of the opposite of everything I tried to build, which is like voter specific. Like you make all the choices, but maybe sometimes people just want to go for a ride. They want to hear someone else's story or someone else's edit, and they can say, "Okay, I've seen the first 30 minutes of this movie 85 times. Now I only watch different endings." Like, that's all I watch. Like, they brought it to this point when anything could fucking happen. What happens? I mean, fidelity in the future probably becomes pretty easy. You can just inhabit multiple characters, tell them what to do in real time, and their little animated virtual representations based on amazing models will just walk around, like you said. Like, AI would be there. Not creative yet, but able to understand everything that you did with key commands and memorize it as something and develop extra understanding. So it could just be your secretary. It would be like a technical secretary. Like that's what an AI would be there for. I don't want to deal. I don't love dealing with my computer. Like being its boss.
That's another Neil Stephenson idea. Snow Crash 1994. He had one of the ideas that he had in Snow Crash was that it was a virtual secretary who would speak to people, and it would be somewhat transparent, kind of like an IVR system on the phone. You call a bank or something. Say what you're looking for.
Everybody had that.
Well, that the idea was if you were anyone important, you would have in order to manage your affairs, you had what was referred to as a daemon. And daemon comes from the Unix
the
term.
robots in the metaverse or whatever.
Right.
I mean,
Yes. Right.
is it a metaverse from Snow
I
Crash?
think it's called the metaverse. Yeah.
I mean, I read a book called Ready Player One, which everything kind of happened in the I think it was also the metaverse.
I've heard of Ready Player One. Who's the author?
Might be him.
No, it's not Neil Stephenson. Japanese author.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it was Murakami, but maybe it's Murakami.
I would bet. I would bet that. Are you sure? Are you positive?
I know it's not.
What? Give me your degree of certainty. Like you have some credibility. Like
100%.
bet some.
100%
You're going-
positive it's not Neil
That's
Stephenson.
great. Besides the virtual earth that you zoom in on, like that credibility, the fact that you can go all in on a debate where you find somebody who has a different viewpoint. Not that you can totally prove them wrong, but if the audience says like, that sounded like more expensive than it was to me.
I think it's not damaged at all, so it may have sounded more expensive.
No, like it was something more expensive that had fallen. I'm totally cool with people.
Right, it's not like that either. You're right. Some old things are very robust. You drop paper, it's okay.
So what the universe just, of course, did that. It made all the rules of everything change, or manipulated me into moving and pushing something off of my lap, because I was excited about the Earth, but I didn't really get to the second part of what was. Where were we recently? Because it's important.
Metaverse credibility, 100%.
Oh, going all in, like the betting of it, the
Ready Player One.
conflict resolution, like what makes you right. Like it's whatever makes you right within the rules of the system that you voluntarily become a part of. Like that's what makes you right in the context.
Arbitration.
OUR, bit ration. Our bit ration.
Oh, that's good.
That could be our coin system, dude. It could be our coin system. You could go all in with all of your wealth if you were sure. And if you lost it, you'd be like, dude, you lost it.
So wait,
That would be great. All those bets and losses.
Wait. Let's think about this stuff.
Massive
Because you're
gambling.
talking about a mechanism for settling disputes basically by voting. Now, if somebody
Bits.
goes in 100% on something and the audience agrees with them, then, that's...
What if the audience goes in 100 too? Like if enough of them go in 100%, They make it happen. It just, I mean, it may fail, but it happens.
Well, let's talk about this as an alternative to the civil jury trial, because if you were to sue somebody, you can sue them in a private court, like an arbitration, or a court of before an attorney arbitrator. But you could also sue them before a web application. If you agree
You
to
do
it,
what with sue them?
you could sue them with a web application. You could say, any disputes arising from this contract will be handled by our arbitration. OURBIT ration.
Ration Inc.
Wait.
You just know what I'm gonna have. Arbit. That doesn't work as well as I thought.
So disputes arising within a contract are sometimes handled through arbitration, which means you've already selected the firm of attorneys that will handle it. You have an arbitrator with the American Arbitrators Association.
We can do that amazingly well.
You could do it
With a large population of people who the
be
companies
willing-
believe will average at
Right.
they'll come up with the right and an acceptable decision in a
Who
business
will
climate where you're not trying to make
assess-
huge risks,
Right, who will assess whatever you've uploaded.
or you are making huge risks and you think somebody else can underwrite you,
Right, yes, absolutely.
underwriting, overwriting, arbit ration. I love how many words actually break up into relatively cool things.
Yes.
Arbit ration is one. Archie texture is pretty good.
Also, our arbitration, is an us, we the people, us, as opposed to arbitration, which is attorneys.
That's something that people on computers that are united in a democracy could do. You can't build brick buildings very easily on the internet, but you could arbitrate. You could hear a story encrypted as a jury in a fucking secure digital room.
Massive
and
multiplayer jury.
It's binding. Jury would be sweet in virtual reality, being put into actual fucking trials, Socrates.
And-
You'd be he's constantly on trial. Every time he's been convicted of 1,000 things that he should be killed for, and each trial he has to convince one person in the jury to let him free, and he gets to he's his own defender. Like Socrates gets to interrogate. I mean, you can't really do that to members of the jury, but you can speak to them.
Massively multiplayer mock trial also sounds good, but I think that's actually something. I think if you could have a
Online
jury vote,
multi-trial. I mean, no.
you have to have some way of assuring quality assurance. Like you'd have to be able to say, yes, this person is actually paying attention to all the material represented. They're not skimming the documents, and then if an attorney stands up to, or if an attorney records themselves explaining what a document is, we need to make sure that the person actually listens to it if you want a fair and impartial jury. But then you might also think that a large enough population would smooth that out a little bit. It's 1,000 people.
Or 100,000 people.
Randomly selected.
But first they have to. See, then I wonder, do they have to volunteer? Or are they in fact volunteering for anything? Any public service? Because you have to do public service in democracy. You don't make that much money. You get amazing benefits. But there is some public service. If you don't do the public service, and if everyone else doesn't do the public service, none of the economic model isn't even possible. If you do it, there's so much efficiency that you can franchise all over the planet.
Random public service actually is very efficient.
Isn't?
It's not.
Oh, random, of course.
Right. Anyways, let me give you an example. Let's say you're an accountant. You bill at a rate of everybody who does.
Accountant.
Accountant. Not a literal.
An ant that counts.
Not like a fire.
No, you're an accountant.
You're an accountant. Like a literal accountant. And he so everybody who charges at about $400 an hour, and that's because the firm charges. And
he gets half.
I don't know what he gets, but
the firm.
The company.
$400. It's ridiculous.
The firm charges $400 an hour. Well, high dollar clients, you can do that, and he has a. And let's say you tell that guy, in general, you're a citizen of the United States needs to do 20 hours of jury duty a year. Well, 20 hours of service, rather, community service. Right. 20 hours of community service at $400 an hour is $8,000. You can charge the same guy $4,000 in taxes, on 20 hours of actual work he was doing.
And pay
And
many
pay
people with
somebody-
no jobs to do almost anything.
Exactly. Yes.
That's-
exactly.
If I ran for public service, it would be like, listen, we're gonna bring you 36 at least relatively brilliant ideas for what we can do to create jobs using massive doses of creativity and a slightly decorrupted system.
Well, I would like to add though that
Everyone.
a jury is one exception to that because you want a broad swath of population. But otherwise, you get people who are retired, so they skew old, unemployed, so they skew poor, and independently wealthy, so they skew rich. So you're missing the middle.
What do we skew? What does democracy skew? Like honest people who make sacrifices because they want
That
a
could
better
be.
life for their fucking
That could be.
families and kids.
I don't know. You'd have to look at
There'd be something different about democracy if you're like we run our bit ration. We were gonna do proper rations for Ashkers. Like they have a lot of, like a walk-in cooler and they buy a lot of fruit and vegetables. So we were gonna do like a system where we were the only restaurant in the city that brought in fresh produce from the countryside and prepared all of it in
Yes.
reusable, absolutely reusable, vacuum sealed, like to both businesses and houses.
Is
Like we built this. Like that's something you can do if you build anything. You can like improve the connections from farm to table. I guess incredibly as part of a collective.
Is he incorporated yet? Oh,
Angelo?
Ashkers.
I don't know. I asked him to play basketball, so he doesn't talk to me a lot. He is a very smart guy who wants to be a positive influence in the community. Like a very smart guy who wants to be a positive influence in the community. I think that in some respects his mind is very open, but not across the board. And I think he believes, because of how much he loves his father and mother, that the only way to be saved is through Jesus Christ, which is mentally limiting. I mean, if it's true, it's still mentally limiting because the story has told us really not to think that we know and not to pursue the truth, which is
Yes.
the most.
Right.
That's the only deadly collective sin. Like to pretend like you're okay, you'll never save yourself. I mean,
No, that's reasonable. That's a reasonable description.
who escapes from a place they don't think is a prison? I mean, I don't know.
No,
There needs to be a buzzer on my thing. Like, I think I'm saying.
that's fantastic. That's really good.
Yeah,
Who
but what if my laptop should buzz me?
Who escapes from a place they don't think is a prison?
And I mean, you've seen nice prisons. I mean,
Well,
most of them aren't. But maybe
I
they.
can say that about there's I heard an aphorism a while ago. There is no state that exists between solid and fluid, but there are states that exist between life and death, such as employment. And that's the same. How do you escape from a place you don't think is a prison?
We close down all the prisons, and we come up with some plans for rebuilding those prison locations as some kind of collective cult. Like, go ahead, live in there. They're fucking cells. And keep the place clean. Don't let the bars fucking rust. Grow some fucking crops around the zombies outside, or whatever you do. Like, right here, you can have, like, this is the local place where societal experimentation is done. You can play by your own rules. You can't have multiple wives, or maybe you can. You can't hurt anyone. You cannot break these federal rules at all. You want to do drugs? We don't give a fuck. You want to leave? You want to do anything you want inside of. So I'm saying, let's move all the prisons to a wall on the Mexican border. Stacked cells and graves too. Let's get rid of all that shit. Prisoners and dead people, and just build them into the wall. But if it was a prison, kind of built-in national border security, right? We'll call it borderline national security. Borderline.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Borderline. Like I would make that film. Somebody's like, dude, you got to make a short film called Borderline. I'd be like, great. Like if I didn't have all these other ideas and I was trying to win a contest and I was working with filmmakers, I'd be like, dude, we can give us 12 hours of brainstorming, and we'll one of the things we come up with will be just funny enough.
And I love all of your ideas concerning the wall. Nothing I've heard from Donald Trump yet has precluded the idea of the wall being affordable row housing for Mexican families.
No Mexican left behind.
No Mexican.
Canada should build it. They'd be like, dude, all right, you know what? We'll build the wall. You just have to sign it over. You have to sign that land over to us. We'll build a wall. They'd take the river, they'd suck it dry. They'd be like, listen, what are you going to do, nuke us? Like, we're too close. If you nuke us, you'll ruin Florida and California and Texas. You're not going to do that. There's too many Jews in Florida. They run the world.
I mean, I don't think so, but
It's too bad we couldn't make a show that was like really rich and could convince people to come on it, but they'd never seen it before because it wasn't being released for 20 years, but it was rich. And you bring in people, and if they say the wrong thing, like they take like a dodgeball cannon shot to the head. Like if within 7 seconds of saying something like blatantly like racist or like hurtfully ignorant, like they will be knocked off of their fucking stool, and you know with a plus or minus 1% chance of getting a fucking concussion. I'm just saying, like, you'd be watching something really cool, and if someone, like, came into it, they didn't realize this was going to happen, they just kind of signed, like, you know what, I'm curious. This is, again, it's the boxing Pulp Fiction. I was shrunken down, and I can go into that paradise. Moving on.
this is the welcome.
It's always anything that's unknown is glow. I want to say anything like once. I just know it's like a thing.
It is a thing.
Tia thinks everything's a meme. Like every little, if you put words on a picture, it's a meme.
Yeah. Well, you don't even need to put words in a picture. A meme
It's
is
meaninglessly.
Memes exist regardless of whether or not there's a picture or words. It can be a meme is an idea that's viral. Or
Spoken, it can be saying something in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they'll take the rapist for 1,000, Alex.
Or the grapist.
Rapist.
Have you ever seen the grapist?
No.
Oh,
Oh, wine, is that wine related? Is that a wine-making rapist?
It's a
Gary Vaynerchuk is a rapist?
There was a comedy strip called The Whitest Kids You Know, circa like 2001 to 2002. All their stuff's on the internet, and there's a sketch called The Grapist where a company that makes fruit juice pays for an advertising firm, an outside advertising firm, to make an ad in which it's like the Kool-Aid Man, except he's a giant bundle of grapes, and he busts through walls, and he says, "I'm gonna grape you in the mouth." and the premise of the sketch is none of the guys at the firm have any objections except one person who says, "It kind of sounds like I'm gonna rape you in the mouth," and everyone's mortified. Like, do you really hear that? I mean, he's a grape. How would he?
12 Angry Rapists.
How would he rape 12 Angry Rapes?
Rapists. I think only one guy sees something.
12 Angry Men. 12
Oh.
Angry Grapes.
You seen The Jerk?
I haven't seen the Jerk. Jim Carrey?
Steve Martin.
I haven't seen the Jerk.
I only say because I want to make The Jerk off. It's about a guy who like gets really. How does he make his money? He invents he's an idiot, and like he invents a handle for glasses. And he makes a lot of money. It's relatively funny. It's not great. And then everybody goes.
He's a literal idiot, right? Like,
Yeah, Then everybody goes cross-eyed, and he like loses all of his friends. And there's a guy that's trying to kill him for some reason. I want to make The Jerk off. I'm saying if I had to, people are like, all right, the number of fucking pieces of paper with ideas that you write on that goes into this bingo roller, which is spun, and you have to do whatever comes out. The more ideas you put in, the better your reward in the end. Because like, if you can put in 300 pieces and be willing to accept whatever comes out and that you can win with it, that's like a combination of how good is an idea versus how good is the person who's building the idea. Because there's people that can take ideas that aren't great and make them. Because every idea is going to have other ideas added to it. No idea stands all by itself in the world of business. It's not like a company's made up of one idea.
Right.
Well, the better idea you start with, the better.
Yeah, right. The better off you are, the better the idea. Yeah. Well, there's actually lots of companies around one idea. There's lots of companies out there today that still produce one product, a single product. They're not huge, obviously diversified companies.
What if that product was democracy? Like an operating system and model. Like this is encrypted and we can allow you to run your own shit. And if the government doesn't let you at first, what are they going to do when there's 275 million of 300 million people on it? Like, and there's like a 79% majority of the people in the country who built a shadow government and said, all right, here's the referendum. Like, you're handing it over. And yes, we have thousands of people who've imagined all the things you might do to violently prevent us from redistributing, with 79% of the population saying history is largely made up of like rapists and enslaving and like
Right.
the drowning of the beautiful qualities in people far more than their enablement. And we think now is the time to redistribute once and say there's no chance to a decent distribution of the ownership of our world from where we stand. I mean, we can't really fucking own it anyways. It's part of time. You know, our ownership is part of time space. It's going to go the fuck away.
Right. Well, setting aside the concept of ownership,
Bonership, the bonership.
ownership. Oh,
That could be fun.
ownership.
I mean,
Well, I like that.
it's like a ship you fuck. It's got 1,000 holes. It's fucking. It's a $4 billion
Bonership.
cruise ship. Like, fuck this ship. Which is a cousin of fuck laundromats. Fuck laundromats like are in
It's
our
a-
movie.
It's a frigate.
Frigate.
The ownership is a
Frigate. Frigate. That's what it means, right? That's good.
It's a elephant.
That's like frig 8. Frigate.
Frigate. Yes.
That's like fucking, and it's like fucking in oral sex.
Or,
Frig means
or-
fuck, right? I mean,
or
in
fucking
some
and-
understandings.
Or fucking and eating.
Fucking, yeah, fucking and eating.
I.
What about fucking in laundry, though? In our story, in this documentary, like in one scene, they walk up and there's a place that says fuck laundromats, and they go inside, and there are separate rooms, and they're really well sound isolated, and they got a nice washer and a nice dryer.
And people are fucking on top of the washer.
Yeah, you go in, it says $10 per load, laundry's free. You pay $10, you get the room for as long as it takes. Laundry's free. But and there's hookers outside all the time, too.
I mean,
Or not at
as
all.
as a libertarian, you know, no objections.
I think, though, like, compared to an actual hooker, like an AI, you know, some kind of robot, like something be like, listen, all right, I don't have a woman right now. I don't really want to have sex, but I like feel like I'm going to explode. Like my cock is going to launch off like a rocket. You know, if I don't like vent steam or something, you'd be like, what's better? Like, what if you can, you know, get off and it's really fucking good? And while you're getting off, the option exists for you to like say very creative things. Like if you do it every day, and you're like, oh shit, I'm jerking off, and I'm like, I'm gonna stop focusing on this. It feels good. I'm gonna distract myself by masturbating, and then I'm gonna go like smoke a little dope and go off into like creative space. It's not a common thing to do. I don't even really do it, but like I do like to like modify to like distract different parts of my mind. I have actually thought I probably had an idea while masturbating in my life. I'm not going to say all of them. That would be a pretty funny character. Like you got a lot of good ideas. You got all of them while you were jerking off. Like I don't think you can succeed. Just because of that. Why did you say so once?
Well,
Like once you streamed it, Google has 36 backups for all people that the NSA watches. I want to be watched by the NSA. That's my dream. That they like watch me and they think I'm funny.
it's a goal.
They're laughing at it because they're like, this could all happen, and it never will. Like they're like, if they took this guy seriously, our whole job would be either stop him or work with these people.
I don't know if the NSA watching you. I don't know if the NSA can help you. So I don't think the NSA watching you should be a goal. I think maybe potential investors watching you.
What about them? I mean, the whole idea of the Antichrist is that you unite to take over the world. They could look at me like, oh, he could build this union, and that makes it easier. You know, that's you do. Like the idea of the whole, you know, the one world union government's great, but
Are there anti-Christian churches? Is there a church of the
anti?
Yeah.
Oh, not anti-Christian, anti-Christ.
Yeah. that's what I
Because
mean.
like a person could be a really good person as a Christian, even if they believed in the Antichrist on some level, because they're not actually doing anything about it. They're not murdering some guy who is trying to bring the world together because it's a trick. Like they believe it, they don't. That's not what they're about. They're just good people who happen to be confused about the Antichrist and confused most likely by the fact that you can be guilty for your father's sins and you need somebody's son to be murdered
Where,
by his other sons, his
where is
brothers.
that preposterous notion? I know the Antichrist is not biblical. Where does that preposterous?
It's not. It's not. It's not. It's just
No, it's not in the
appropriated by
Bible.
the Bible.
I
Or it's
don't
not even
think-
in the Bible.
Well, I think the word Antichrist might be used, but I don't think all of this stuff about an Antichrist and the rapture and all of this, it all forms a kind of Christian folklore, Christian mythology on top of the Bible, which people like me would also regard as the power too.
It's crazy that it's effective in getting a lot of people to believe it. I mean, yes, you wait until they've fallen down if they aren't already built that way by their mother, like they have to be suffering, and you promise something that can't be unproven. And even if it's phenomenally illogical, like if you look at the whole thing and each bit of it, like I think you get to a certain percentage of things that are phenomenally illogical, even if it's 3 or 4, and the whole thing is not really legitimate. Like it has to make sense in every one of its percentages. There has to be some sense. Like some of them might be, some of the 100 things that make up something great might be, phenomenal, and some may not be, but they all have to be like logical and possible. They can't actually be like insane. Like that stuff's all reserved for like humorous science fiction, like maybe. And sometimes you just, what's that movie? You see Inside Out?
No.
That's good. So there's like I could make an analogy to something from that movie. I wouldn't mind actually if I had like a screen over here and I was like, we were movie reviewers, but we talked about all this other shit and we just brought in a few scenes from those movies as part of like a much longer story. And like, he didn't just review Inside Out. They talked for 90 minutes, and there was a 3-minute commentary on fucking Inside Out. Like, it was ridiculously incidental. It's like I want to do a talk show and just set up and only record when there's a fire going on in Buffalo, but don't say anything about the fire, ever. Like, just pretend like you live essentially in Armageddon. Like, Buffalo's burning all the time. And that's why this guy talks about the future. Like, this is not going to work. This is not tenable. This is untenable.
So, I wonder if it would actually work. A review of Inside Out, and then in parentheses, and other stuff. And it's 90 minutes long. There's 3 minutes about Inside Out, and then the other 87 minutes is this.
We could start. We could maybe start with the review, and then like play it when it happened anyways. Be like, but listen, okay, this is what we actually are doing. If you want to leave after 3 minutes, fine. We did our review.
Right.
45 minutes later, that same review will be heard in the context of something completely fucking different.
Yes.
And if you have any FOMO, you better watch.
FOMO?
Fear of missing out.
FOMO. Okay, very good.
I don't know why I got FOMO. I just started using the word jelly. It's going to last about a week or two before I shoot that part of my brain with an X-ray laser that I didn't yet invent.
Yeah,
in the future,
right.
An
X-ray laser. Yeah, jelly. Jelly is good. I like jelly.
It really. I downloaded Snapchat. I don't really get it. It doesn't like it's the opposite of recording shit. Like there's all these snaps. A lot of them are not being. A lot of them disappear, don't they? Or do you get to keep them on your phone?
I think that's the idea.
Even from your own phone, they disappear. That's a mistake.
I don't know if they disappear from your own phone, but I think the purpose is, sending your naked selfie to your significant other.
But if everyone keeps their own stuff and the right things happen, like that's fine. They can upload that shit after the fact. Like,
I don't know if it's a from your own phone.
No. I mean, I really think for me to put something on Amazing here, it has to be like part of a company. When you go into it, you don't just sign up. Like you realize, okay, I can look at this. There's one choice. That is, do I invest a small sum of money in this company or do I not? And if I'm either paid or I'm unpaid, and they're two different worlds. Like, what's the difference? You're powerless in the first. You can see anything. You can't touch. You can't change. You can't vote. You can't interact. You can just watch. That's what 2 cents.
A
day. 2 cents a day.
I know I mentioned this to you before, but check out kickfurther, kickfurther.com, because it's kind of relevant to what we're talking about.
I didn't write that down last time. I will now. What was the Uber thing? Oh, Uber reality. I think Uber becoming a $50 billion value company is something that happened, hopefully, for one of the last times. Like when you can, I believe you can duplicate Uber without Uber. I think Uber can easily be a union. There's really, I can't imagine a reason why not. I mean, you need some server space, right? But you have Amazon Cloud. You have all these cloud companies that'll have really fast, reliable hardware, build you custom fucking racks.
There's some discussion
fast.
about Uber drivers. I think they're 1099. I think they're considered contractors.
They can do it themselves.
They could themselves be a union.
Software's not that. Uber's not that fucking. It doesn't have some magical algorithm. It's who's closer, who's flipped tabs. It's like matching a database. That's it. right?
Right. Well, yes, it's what and
Verification and
yeah, credit
database.
card processing and
But
just
that's nothing.
well, it's not nothing, but it's the usual e-commerce stuff that you can hire somebody.
No, I mean, if you could do it yourself with one hand while jerking off, it's not something that a company really has to worry about. Like,
I mean,
oh, we
my-
need to figure out how this can be done.
my words per minute would be significant.
You're talking. You can learn how to hide your voice.
I could dictate while I'm drinking off while I'm coding the site. Sure.
Hitler was always being blown from below the podium.
Always.
What was his wife's name? Braun. It
Eva
was
Braun.
Eva Braun's brother
Eva Braun's brother.
was blowing him from under the podium. Maybe I think
What's the
Ava, I think
reason?
Ava must have been. I have like 2 bright lights on my face. It's great. How do you like the dark?
Yeah, this is good. This is
Um,
good. It works.
I really want to. If I had to go back, I don't like going back. There's only certain things that will attract me, and like my attention. The idea of like being able to look, and I've thought about this probably hundreds or thousands of times. Like being able to look at the Earth in detail is obviously probably beyond the capacity of us to carry around with us, right? I mean,
Right now, I would say so.
we can't take the perspective of a satellite from 25 years from now, and we probably couldn't even play it back on this. I mean,
You may have trouble with that too.
you could see like a map. You could be like, all right, I need
Well,
to get
I
to
could see-
TJ Maxx, and it would, maybe zoom in on the Earth quick. And
You might be able to play 4K on that, but I don't know if you want to go if you want to do 8 or 16
I mean, full-
or
what is the thing though? If you have each of your eyes and each of them has a high definition screen, is that any different? That's not twice high definition.
that's
But it's not
because
identical either.
There's going to be diminishing returns past a certain point. There's also going to be after diminishing returns, there's going to be saturation. There's going to be a point at which you can't tell. It's like print technology where it's good enough when 90% of people or 99% of people can't tell there could be something better, that there could be a higher quality print. And it would be, it might be a thing that comes down to a matter of taste, where you could say, oh yeah, this was recorded with a GoPro 4K. This is not the quality of my usual VR. Dan Buffalonians recording their 4K VR. But you'd have to. I do think you'd want some kind of external thing. And you probably would have to have some, glass hole style equipment.
That's live VR though. So whether it's a person or a robot, or a drone, like a drone is a drobot, whatever.
Robot.
I mean, that's like that real time point. That's another thing. Is the real time when you're in it. When it changes, when it fucking changes, and like you're like, I am actually kind of in this place, like, and I'm actually inside of something that's flying, and I realize there's 48,000 other people that are looking through it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a drone, like a camera Mac in a place where I want to be, and I can't because it costs a fortune to fly there for me, or months to sail there. So the only way to be there is through a virtual representation. It's the only way.
Right. And well,
And-
given the time and expense and
That's truly virtual reality, right? I mean, the telepresence, when you're seeing from reality to a single lens.
well, if you're looking for a specific meaning of the term presence, nobody can. When we talk about presence or telepresence, this stuff has been formally studied, and you can read about it and psychologically what people consider presence. And some of the earlier research was 2004, 2005, and people were comparing instant messenger protocols because they were really more of a thing than people today. Use Facebook chat a little bit, and I still have a Yahoo account, but they're not really as popular. But there's discussions of presence and telepresence where they're comparing instant messenger protocols because some of them have an offline message facility and some of them don't. And some people like to be able to send a message offline as if you were there. I mean, some people like to put a um, some people like to actually have a sense that this is a place. I have to wait until I get home to talk to this person, or maybe so and so will be online. Like you remember
That would be. I mean, that metaverse style shit would be kind of really cool. If you
Well,
had
that's-
to be
that's
like,
something
you
that
can't do it from home. Like you have to go to
right.
an
True.
HQ or an arcade, like to
Yeah.
get in.
Oh yeah, and well that could be
It's
cool.
a nice gimmick. It's like Bible shit.
A sense of
Tricking
scarcity.
people.
And there's a sense of scarcity that makes it valuable. But that's something that Wachowski said to me the other day, that he kind of likes not having. He kind of looks back nostalgically on not having a cell phone and going home and getting on AIM or going home and getting on XMPP or IRC, and having a sense of physical presence. People aren't bothering me on my phone all day long. It's just when I'm at home, when it's convenient for me. And that's also what provides that sense of presence. You know that somebody's going to be there and engaged, somewhat engaged, if they're responding to your messages on Instant Messenger.
Somebody that's projecting their perspective through the internet and telepresence would almost certainly be more present than anyone there who was looking at their phone away from where they are, because your attention would be centered on that present. The people that were there on their phone would not be paying near. So if your mind's eye is present, I mean, you're fucking present in every respect that matters. You can, if you have to operate a construction robot, all you need is your perception and the ability to signal X, Y, Z.
I have a friend. I have friends actually who are big into architecture.
It's called
And-
architecture. Architecture.
We'll get back to that.
It's trademarked. I get 2 cents every time you say it.
Gotcha. I've often wanted, something I could put on my head, like along the lines of Google Glass, which of course isn't a thing anymore, but where I could go up Delaware Avenue or someplace like that and give him an idea of what the houses and so forth look like. Because it's different holding a video camera if you're driving or if you're on the bus or something like that. There's a social element where you don't want to be on the bus with the camera.
Right.
Feels a little strange. And obviously I can't drive and also have the camera. Or well, I mean, maybe I could. Maybe I could
You're
drive.
magnetically attached to the top of the fucking car. I mean,
That's
that's
retarded, but I don't want to kill anybody. I mean, somebody has to make. It's kind of an individual choice thing. Somebody can make the choice. I'm coordinated enough to drive and operate a camera at the same time, but I'm not. I know I can't.
right. Unless it's doing everything itself. I mean, I think it's way safer to drive a car and have a video conversation with someone than to do anything on your phone at all.
Right.
Because you're just driving and visually absorbing what's in front of you. There's more than one part or side of your mind. You can very carefully ingest what's happening in front of you visually and react to it, having been a driver for years.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're actually paying visual attention, you're giving your eye and that connection to your mind the chance to see a person. If you're looking at your phone, you're not even going to fucking see them.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to probably triangulate and record as if you're looking out your window, and whenever you're looking at the world, the cameras catch you as looking at the fucking camera. Then I think you really, when you're working in a car, when you're talking, and you'd be focusing on the moment with your eyes. It's almost a requirement because we can't have people getting into accidents. Our cab drivers have to be extremely safe. They can't be looking at equipment. It has to be automatic, and they know that all they need to do is drive and engage in conversations.
So, interesting thing. A lot of states allow delivery. This is something I heard from somebody in technology. A lot of states allow delivery of alcohol, and there's lots of places, college towns like Buffalo, or Austin, or Columbus, where there's tons of kids who don't have cars, who don't want cars. Uber is going to How about
Ubir? Ubir? Is that what you were?
Yep, that's exactly. Yep, that's,
doesn't
that's
happen very
exactly
often,
what I was
like-
going for.
Jinx, and like we're in court, and they're like, wait, what would you say when you?
Whoa!
Is
He
it
jinxed
Jinx?
him. He
He
jinxed
jinxed
him.
him.
You know, let's play it back.
And then De Niro, we'll use De Niro. You see, there's a movie with De Niro, The Fockers, and he has a cat named
Nope.
Jinx. It's pretty. De Niro can be funny. Like he's a very confident, a very confident guy.
I heard a story from someone who said that
He was a CIA guy, so he could be also watching this thing.
I-
JC.
I heard a story from De Niro, from someone who worked with De Niro on set, and he got one of the stagehands to blow in, and she had her mic on, like, and she wasn't a stagehand, she was a production.
She was a
production
stage mouth.
assistant.
She was a
She was
stage
a
hole.
stage mouth. That's right. It wasn't a hand.
She was a stage gina.
That's right. But she had her mic on during the entire time, and she had like a little lavalier mic. So all of the blowjob sounds, because it was on, and they jam. You need to say what you say, and then beep out when you're on one of those full
Right.
studio
She
productions.
was open the whole time.
So it was just open the whole time. So there was just sounds of her talking dirty with Robert De Niro.
Did you hear his side though? Because he was.
Yes.
No, I was making it up. I was going to claim that he was talking about how he was starting a digital currency called De Niro to compete with Bitcoin, and he
good.
put all of his assets into it. He's like, listen, I'm going to die soon. Like I'm gonna all of you who buy into this new digital currency. One of the extra ROIs is the ability to control me, to tell me like essentially what to do with the rest of my life. I'm gonna relax no matter where I am, but
It's backed by Robert De Niro dollars.
By himself.
They're convertible on the death of Robert De Niro to
De Niro's.
dollars, so that establishes a minimum value. That establishes a par value for the De Niros.
he could. I think he could give a lot of them away like immediately, but when he died, it would actually maybe manifest. So
Yeah, it would
if
be
you wanna,
awesome.
you can cash out actually. His estate has hundreds of millions of dollars in value. I mean,
Although-
Bitcoin's worth what, $5
That would prevent it from floating.
billion?
Or it
The
might
currency?
prevent it from floating. Yeah, it might prevent it from
Okay,
establishing a value.
briefly explain floating currency. That's just-
Floating is a floating currency. So what
pegged
we're
to
describing
nothing.
is called a pegged currency, and it's the opposite of a floating currency. A pegged currency is where you say a dollar is worth $1, and this is the peso, and it's worth 1/8 the dollar or 1/10 the dollar. The peso was pegged to the dollar. In 1984, Mexico went through what the U.S. press called the tequila crisis, where the peso, I believe it depreciated against the dollar, was trading lower than what the peg was. So the price collapsed, and people were buying more pesos with dollars than they were supposed to be able to, according to the Mexican government. So they were using third-party money changers that would give them more than 10 pesos or whatever it was.
Some people would want to destabilize the fuck out of. I mean, if you get exchange rates off for enough time, I think you end up with real fuck. Like people would be like, it's not. This is.
If there's a peg, that's a thing that can happen. And Europe used to have something like this, which were called ERM bands. And the ERM, or the exchange rate mechanism, kept all of the currencies in Europe within certain ranges of one another. So
How do they do that? They just say it.
They say it. They decree.
They have to-
They decree. You can only buy this many pounds, or you can buy a pound for 3.2 Deutschmarks, and it will be allowed to move a little bit. This is the max, and this is the minimum. You can only trade within this range.
And if there's one system worldwide, are you a fan or not? I mean, do you like pegged, or would you want a single system,
No,
a
they,
peg system,
They need a float.
a float where you have a float, and you have an anchor cable, and you have the ability to generate. Like, what's a? What's this, Paul?
I don't even know what that is.
It's like pegged but floating. It's anchored but floating. It's not a rigid anchor. Like it stays in a place in a way, but it also is able to.
It does. It does stay in place in a way.
The money. I'm thinking the money makes something. It does.
Well, no,
Like,
that's,
not
that's
interest,
kind
but
of the idea.
earning.
Well, there's
Burning.
So a big thing that drives the exchange rate where currencies are floated, which comes in for a lot of good things, is exports. So Canada exports lots of silver and oil and timber to the U.S. when the prices of those things are high. So when the price of oil is high, as it has been in recent years, and the price of timber is high, as it has been in recent years, and the price of silver is high, it went up to $27 an ounce in 2009 or something. The Canadian dollar is higher than the U.S. dollar, and for over a year they were at parity, and for some time it was like $1.10 or $1.15 because the price of those commodities was high. But the example where it's allowed to vary a little bit, which is called a band, isn't much better than a peg because currencies can still crash. In 1992, a bunch of American hedge funds went short the pound because they thought it was worth much less than 3.2 Deutschmarks, which is what it was allowed to trade at in the ERM. So they went short. They sold the pound on leverage. So they borrowed money to sell pounds, and people eventually started buying them at less than 3.2 Deutschmarks, which broke the ERM. The UK had to leave the ERM, and eventually the pound was just allowed to float, which it should have been to begin with.
Is the system good enough now where if you were the president of a giant international venture and you had 36 million people working on, like, as a part of a company, and the company had an internal credit system determining, like, not the ownership of it, but the ownership of, like, more work or more credits. Like, some people had worked more and spent less at the moment, but which had to then address the outside world where none of its citizens actually dealt with these things themselves. The business dealt, all you did was hand a card to any, like, we'd know who the processor was, we'd know the amount. Like, you don't deal with your own money. Like, would you recommend a dollar, or do you think there's another currency that could be fucking introduced?
Something that I had this discussion with a friend who's trying to do an e-commerce thing right now, where there would be a lot of stuff involving store credit, where the you would buy store credit in your personal currency, and then there would be a kind of internal currency in the store. You have a balance of 25 dineros, let's say dineros, and the dineros are then used to trade within the store.
Dineros!
And that might be an alternative. That might be a realistic alternative to the exchange rate system. But wherever the company is domiciled would probably have to settle its accounts in a single currency, so it's kind of fixed to that.
Can you start a company and offer it for sale at a valuation of the price necessary to construct it, i.e. $1 billion? Can I start a company and, like, essentially say, if you invest in this, you are investing at a valuation of $1 billion.
Sure.
That's just,
Sure.
and it will not be activated until. So you're like, we did a Kickstarter project. It wasn't going to happen in 2 months. We thought it was going to take between 3 and 9 years for enough people to sign up. Like, it just, a generation maybe had to go by before enough money was put in to activate the contract forming the corporation. I mean, I would love to go to Washington as a lawyer. I would certainly invite you down to sit in our office, our super convertible industrial recreational vehicle, and discuss after a day of lobbying.
There are some
how to
rules
relax.
with regard to soliciting investment where you can only have so many shareholders. So the massively multiplayer, so to speak, crowdfunding may be difficult to do.
So, but for any legitimate fucking reason, or something that can be
No.
lobbied
No,
either to the
just
people
because
or
of-
to them.
Just because of the law. Just because of the law, it would be difficult to do. Not for any legitimate reason. You can solicit advertising.
So that might be the film, like the 12 Angry Men. Like,
You can solicit advertising. You can solicit investment under a certain number of shareholders.
that's arbitrary as fuck.
Yes, it is.
We could bring arbitrations to them. Like, we could bring arbitrations to the United States and be like,
a-
fuck the existing jury
it's
system.
a
We
lot.
will do this.
It's a lot
999
now,
people.
though. It's something like, I want to say, you can look this up. It's called the Jobs Act. It was like 2011, 2012, and that raised the threshold where you could send out a prospectus and say, I want you to invest in my shit.
Are there golden tickets?
That's my knowledge, but
I mean, I think you could buy, like, if you have to sell 1 billion shares, you could say to a person, you can only really buy one for yourself. If you give us $50, you're sponsoring 49 other people. Now, there will be potentially, if you're a scumbag, a financial return. We will buy that out from you because of our ridiculous efficiency and success. But you can only have one vote. Like, if it comes to a constitution and there's only 92,000 holders versus 3,000 pieces of stock,
You can
like
also give them no votes.
one vote.
You can give them multiple classes of stock, and
Most of it's okay. Real constitutional vote, operational vote, no vote.
right, and
Like you just loaned us money or invested, and we'll give you money back because we
Right.
still need money, and super capitalists have it.
so if you pay dividends would be proportional to
Dib?
the investment.
Dividends,
Yeah, dividends.
dividends,
Dividend sounds like a
Dividends.
thing. It's like
dividends. It's a dividend. It's like you get dibs at a den. It's like arcades are dividends.
dibs.
They pay dividends too. The dividends are the fact that you can sit down on a supercomputer in a VR that blows your fucking mind and legally get high at the same time.
Why
Like we
not?
say, we will not open until it's recreationally legal. This is too for anyone 42% of the population enjoys this way more when they elevate their mind in some respect and are able to look past the gravity of the past, which has been stuffed into their brain through education. Like, it helps. In 100 years, maybe people will not be raised in the same world, and they won't be raised in a box. They'll be raised from the beginning to be like, listen, we live in a brilliant, amazing society, but the past is like Hitler. Like, right now is like the equivalent. It's worse than Hitler to them because we're all pretending. We're not killing anyone. We're allowing everything to remain the way it is decade after decade after decade, and more pain and suffering. I mean, there's really nothing I wouldn't trade almost to save at the very, no, I would say at very least for any children that were fucking murdered during World War II. But everyone, you can't, but if I think about it and why I am myself, it's because of children and mothers dying together naked in a gas prison.
Yeah.
It could happen. It happened. It's not that you could say in the past this could happen, but it couldn't happen.
There were camps in China that the Japanese ran where there are estimates of women and children, and there's no record of any of the pregnant women giving birth, and there's no record of any children being there, so they probably killed them all while they were pregnant, and the number of victims for one camp is estimated at between 3,000 and 250,000. It's just
And great, those numbers are huge.
It's
Either way,
huge,
3,000,
huge range.
millions, or hundreds of thousands, and then it seems like kind of less if you think about 6 million or 20 million or the total.
It's hard to recognize the larger number.
Did any soldier ever say to a captured Japanese citizen, "Get on your Japanese," and then shoot him? Because they wouldn't understand it anyways. That's funny. You can make the funniest pun in a person in another language. They understand your language, but they don't.
Difference.
It's just gibberish. It's funny. You have we make sense. But if we just switch the perspective to someone who doesn't speak English, look at how we look. No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's there's certainly less brutality under the left. I think there's more good. I mean that sincerely. I think there's more good. I think there's more people. It's a kinder world than it has been in recent history. A lot of things, among professionals, for instance, medical ethics is different than it was 30, 40 years ago. There were places that wouldn't have batted an eye on having a student doctor do exams on a patient that had been anesthetized for something completely unrelated.
So there's a lot of. I mean, people were treated horribly within medicine. I mean, in a million or 100 other ways.
And that's not this generation or these past few generations, the World War II generation, the boomers, and the past 3 or 4 generations have just been born into a kinder world. And I think that sincerely, I think it's a kinder world.
On average.
On average, right? I
mean,
obviously there are huge awful issues. I mean, there's still 1.5 million people dying of tuberculosis every year.
it's a lot better in the first world. I mean, some of the things you're talking about like would maybe benefit
Well, also,
us more than somebody else, like a place that might not even get to those kinds of reforms for a century.
Yeah.
Like the first world has gotten better. The fourth world has gotten worse or stayed the same. It's the fourth world is so bad it doesn't change.
well,
Like it's objectively the fourth world. The third, second, and first worlds, it's all a matter of like perception and preference and taste.
what part of the world would you call the first world?
It's part-time space. It fluctuates. Like once you look at it, it becomes better. It's only the fourth world if you don't even know that it's fucking. It's the third world that you don't know that's happening. Third world's wrong. Second world's maybe like temporarily acceptable. I would live in the second world. I'd live in the third world. If you told me I could have a couple things, like if I was a king in the third world,
Well,
just in terms of being able to have any woman that wanted me from anywhere around the world that I also wanted.
I have a friend who's living in India right now. He is living in Andhra Pradesh, so very rural, not very built
It's
up.
not like an incubator, like a city, an incubator for high technology.
Andhra Pradesh.
Cooperative, yeah. Andhra Pradesh?
No,
It's pretty close. I mean,
it's I
it
guess.
doesn't sound like you're going to say the name of a town in India. I'd love to go to India, dude. I want to make a film for like really ignorant people where I pretend like they think that I'm talking about going to India, but I'm actually talking about like going to the American Indian reservations and building like a network of like futuristic cooperative Disney utopias. Or the other way around, like they think I'm talking about Indians. And I'm talking about Indians, like whatever the idea is doesn't quite work on American Indian reservations, but in a country of 1 billion fucking people, like it's a total, how many Indians are there in America? 1 million?
That's a good question.
There's not 10. I mean,
Well, there might become people who have shared ancestry who are,
what, rape-based connections between people?
In some cases, probably.
In some cases, definitely.
Have you heard anything about the I can't remember what it's called, the Native Families Act or something like that? So check this out. If a child is orphaned and she has any American Indian blood whatsoever,
They can take her?
state administrators, yes, they're supposed to place her in a tribal foster home. And there was a story in the press recently about a little girl who was placed with a family in California who was a non-Indian family, but they found in the records that she was 1/32nd Choctaw. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
It sounds fine. Is this a tremendous outlier, or does this happen?
It happens. This girl was 1/32nd. 1/32nd.
Yeah, but if less than 32 girls, if it happened to less than 32 girls, it's not good.
Or it needs to be one whole.
That's the whole.
Right. Seems
We
reasonable.
only worry about holes. Holes.
But no, I mean, it's
I kind of want to have your conversation today be as Beavis, and all the things that you say, like, because then he could have laughed right there with him. Because sometimes they make stupid cartoon characters say really smart things for a while, and engage way above their pay grade.
right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
We can accept a lot, like silly shit. Our brains are very adaptable when we let them be. You get to certain areas and it seems people have been somehow propagandized and they're just not flexible.
Well, lots of people, even very educated people who have been educated,
Even?
like good institutions. I mean, realistically, very good colleges have very narrow ways of thinking.
Wouldn't it be even? I mean, I might even give a pass on some level to Stanford, but if you look at the last 1,000 companies that came from there, which netted over $1 million in their lifespan in 1 year, some of them are about making a difference, but the overall, you still might even think that Stanford doesn't necessarily properly bring their students to admitting like how ignorant not we all are, but they are too. Like we all are. Like we don't know how to operate the kind of world that we're aspiring to create, and we need to like face that and dedicate not just effort towards building technical utilities.
I mean, when we're talking about
understanding,
right now, we're streaming, we're on the internet, or if we're not streaming, if it's only streaming, we get this is up on the internet after. What of privacy? I mean, what of and how easy will it be for you to find any conversation a person has ever had if you're law enforcement or something like that? The
we do it.
Well,
I mean, I intentionally get all of
it's
it.
elected to. We choose to do that, but everyone else is also doing the same thing, and we don't even give it any mind.
What if the people of the world, in large part, are kind of stupid and we're convinced that by capturing everything, we would create the greatest reality show in the history of the world by 1,000 times? We would switch faces. That's all we do. We would anonymize, but everyone would have a telescreen, and whenever there was a loud enough, natural enough laugh associated with a heart rate increase, like there'd be like 42 billion funny things a decade.
Does the world want or
So they'd
need
accept violation of privacy and with
yeah,
anonymity for the
does
sake of
world-
entertainment.
But does the world need or want another reality show? And what if I don't want the reality show? I don't want access to it.
Well, it's a virtual reality show.
What if I don't?
It's just a
I'm not
word.
interested?
It's just words.
I'm not interested.
I hate reality shows, but I want to be able to live my life capturing everything so I can tell a story that hopefully has a slightly positive impact upon humanity. So I'm willing to capture it all in order to be more natural in capturing 50,000 funny moments that cause people to have a better opinion of me and maybe to listen to my vision 2 decades from now.
I have to tell you that you're a more interesting person than most people out there. Most people don't want their gaze captured not because they're concerned about their privacy, but because they're not really interested.
They're living inside their tiny fucking minds. I'm probably mostly opportunity and situation. I mean, I was a curious kid, like something about my early years, or the exact sequence of words inside my the book that created me genetically. Like the exact sequence gave me, like working together gave me more brightness, like more desire to look out and to absorb and to make myself bigger than myself. But I mean, we live in an era when most people have a negative connotation with the idea of going out of your mind. I mean, fact. It's a negative thing to go out of your mind, and we confuse that with insanity or something. Like
anyone
we don't.
Anyone who's done anything a little bit interesting has had a couple of screws loose.
But what if they're not? What if your screws aren't loose? You just operate a very tight ship in a very insane way. Like, what if you have an actual connection to reality and you can therefore leave at any time and operate in theoretical space? The more security you have in actual reality, the more, I think, freedom and ability you have to join a virtual reality shower. It's raining all the time and everyone's naked.
More security, you mean financial security, physical security?
I mean, sure. I mean, financial, like life security, life support, basically. What do? What does democracy provide? Life support. We provide life support. If you want, and you're one of us, and you're smart, you can provide the price of your life by engaging with other people and helping to find and refine ideas. Like, that can absolutely be done by anyone. If everyone in democracy, 1 million people, all worked only with their minds, we'd be a consulting firm that, in some respects, defined the entire market for consulting. Like, yeah, okay, there's 1 million of them, and they're weird, but they're studying. There's 1 million perspectives that are studying the rest of us and analyzing our patterns. And if you want to sell shit to the other 6.999 billion, these are probably the people who have the best and most objective perspective.
That's actually something. Hold on, let's stick there. Let's stay right there. Let's limit the discussion, the scope of this discussion, to market research for a second. What if you had 1 million people who were available for market research?
Just people who who had credibility.
Some level of credibility. They realistically could buy the product or the service or the idea that you're looking to promote, and you had 1 million people say,
you
the way I would probably write this is
you want 1 billion, but write it any way you want.
okay, sure, absolutely. The way I would write that, you absolutely want more. More is better.
It's
the
an
way I would
interactive
write this
technology.
is you would be part of a partnership, or you'd be part of we'd write it as an LLC. We'd have a gigantic partnership, and everyone would get some kind of income from it. They would get K1. They'd get a Schedule K1 at the end of the
But
year.
it's not cash.
Yeah,
Don't even go there.
Cash.
Unless if there's a reason to say why it can be, but it's not. It's credits. The cash would be in the entity. All of it. The credits would like what they were used for. If you want to go to Burger King and get $5 worth of shit in an outside currency, fine. But like, to me, it's the cash is only a business asset.
It would be tax value though, so you would need to either pay them cash to cover the tax on what they're.
Well, people would give us cash. We pay our taxes. A company, but listen, our individuals don't pay taxes. They have no traditional income. We've worked out a deal with the IRS. We pay you based on income and outcome of this corporation.
Well, that's something you'd have to lobby because usually a partnership doesn't pay tax on the partnership level.
What happens if you just write a bill? Has anyone just written a bill and just put it out there and it's viral and it was like, okay, you have to do this? Does that even happen? Like an informal high-tech referendum? Like, where are they?
I have no idea if that has any kind of traction or if anybody outside Congress has written a bill and said, hey, Mr. Congressman, check this out, do this. I think usually when it's proposed, it's in vague terms. When you have a petition on change.org.
Even that, though, I mean, like people do that, right? They like, oh, let's legalize weed, or
yeah, right.
Let's make it so that transgender people can use a bathroom that doesn't make them feel horribly uncomfortable. Whatever.
That's reasonable. I mean,
we don't have referendums in New York, right?
I can't believe there was a discussion. What's that?
We don't have referendums in New York.
We have
right?
referendums. Yes, we do.
You do?
Yes, but here's the thing. In other states, you do a referendum by gathering signatures, and you gather signatures and you say, I want this on the ballot. That's it. That's how California does it. In New York, not so much. New York, the referendum has to originate within the legislature. So the Assembly and the Senate have to say it's going to referendum.
If you can take, I know you can go out and ask people for money for vets as a nonprofit and keep a percentage of the money. Like I could go out and collect money for a cause and tell people like this is how much I make. Like if I don't make this much, I'm not at your door. Like, but this is all that I take from it's a flat fee. It's a zero sum on my part.
Well, you have operating costs and you pay a salary. So usually that's how it will work. You pay a salary to the founders who are actively participating in the business.
Do some founders
in the nonprofit?
Do some founders who think accept benefits? Like, listen, all I'm accepting is that I am owed a certain amount of benefits, products, services in the future, and if the company goes out of business, I get nothing. And I fully accept that for better terms in another area of my contract. Like, I will never ask this company for money. There's nothing to do with why I'm here. I'm giving them money because I want it to exist. I don't want money back.
A specialist in nonprofit tax to see if services could be rendered in the future in exchange as opposed to salary. Because salary is the usual way of doing it. And when it's a nonprofit, varying much from the usual is something that gets a little iffy.
Right. I mean, it's almost, I always will just flip back to tell a story about it, and you can do whatever the fuck you want. And you can show the perspective of justices and politicians like you can do any of it. There's another part of me that wants to abandon all of it and just start running.
Running what?
Well, either like Forrest Gump or for president or both. No, I'm gonna be Socrates Gump. I'm just gonna take on this character. I'm gonna change my name to Socrates Gump. I'm gonna run for president for 4 years from now, and I'm gonna run the whole time. Choose. I mean, literally, if I went running, it'd probably be good for me. Better than playing basketball, like cutting back and forth and like jumping. It's not good for your knees at 40.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm actually okay, which is fucking crazy. Like I might be able to pretend like I'm relatively young for maybe 7 more years. Like, and then basically at 50. I mean, at 50, you can beat an 18-year-old in basketball if you shoot like a Jedi, and you have any quickness at all. You can beat people. But I saw a thing online today about this armor suit that they make for like martial arts weapon combat, and they had just come up with a lighter version that's like 25 pounds. And they asked at the end, they're like, is it possible to get people to be interested in a bloodless combat sport which doesn't show people's faces? And I wondered, there's a difference between a couple guys fighting in a cage and 20,000 tourists putting on like stormtrooper armor and fighting 10,000 residents of a tourist utopia. Like there's a big difference in that. The weapons are different. You don't have tanks in hand-to-hand combat. You don't have drones. You don't have dodgeball cannons. I was thinking before, like with reusable ammunition and the right drones, like people would walk out and probably smoke some proprietary weed and sit in an anti-aircraft cannon, like shooting soft golf balls like 300-400 a minute at aircraft, like gambling. They're hard to hit. If you just touch them, you probably get your money back for this. Like, well, no, maybe a quarter of your money back every time you can actually hit one plane with one projectile. And if you're really good, like you can actually always come and play for free, and people watch you. But the ammunition has to be reusable, and it has to probably all be pneumatic. You can't have like transfers of forms of energy and like the loss associated. But that's something that
It would probably have to be just for legal reasons. It would have to be pneumatic, because otherwise you'd have to get a tax stamp for each one of them. So you'd want it to be pneumatic for the two reasons.
What do you mean, as opposed to gunpowder?
Yeah.
I'm talking about electrical. Would be possible too. I'm just what's actually.
Electrical discharge is high energy stuff. I don't know if that would be a high.
Well, I mean, if you're shooting a lightweight,
Any kind of chemical propellant, you would need a.
fuck chemical notes. It would be either electrical or pneumatic. It could either be a battery, like firing those little Nerf pebbles, but at like 400 F, whatever the fuck it was.
Right.
But I mean, it depends. You could have different forms too. A dodgeball cannon could be mounted on a small cliff in front of your flag if that's how you were doing things, and it might be powered by a windmill that it's fucking connected to on a pressure network. And your side has to maintain enough pressure in their side. If you run out of pressure, you fucking lose. Pressure could be
ammunition.
like when I think of Las Vegas in a board game or a virtual game played on a virtual Earth in a crazy scale, I think that like how strong you are in Las Vegas is represented by the size of the spheroid that you're able to assemble, where each fucking sphere is a 40-foot diameter ball of water.
In what state would you put Las Vegas?
The state of Equatorial Sahara. Equasa. Wait. Equasa. Equatorial Sahara. The whole. We just cut out what we want.
I can't remember what it was called, but we talked about this last time. Terra Nullius. The Terra Nullius is land that's claimed by no country. There's a little triangle of land between Sudan and Egypt that's claimed by another country, and I can't remember what it's called. Or maybe that's the way. There it is. Maybe that's.
That could be interesting, but how big would it have to be to provide enough power for Las Vegas? I think it's not big enough. I mean, you can maybe start there, but this is where our initial plant is. Yes, we have to work out a deal for transporting the billions of mirrors that we make in the next couple of decades from here to a much larger area in the Sahara where we've leased land for a fucking millennium. Or millennia, I don't know. I have trouble with the form of millennia or millennium. I'm sure we talked about Las Vegas when we met. So I think I need to build a virtual reality. Like, I don't know if I need the design skills. I think I need to be there as a conversationalist and a communicator between various artists. But like Risk, I like the game of Risk sort of, but it's missing so much.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking random. And I know there's one you can play online. And I don't even think that is played on a sphere. I think it's played on a flat planet. I want to make real global board games. Absolutely want to make global, like magnetically enabled or suction cup based or both, probably both, real world physical globe games.
I had a friend recently whose mom was looking at buying a board game company. There's a board game company. It's physically in this area that was for sale.
Like how much are we talking? $100,000, $50 million? Does this person have money like that? They could start. Could they start a board game company?
I don't know. I really don't.
I'm not.
Detail.
If somebody offered, I'd probably consider taking their money and
If I
building a
had
board
to
game.
roll the dice, if it was a small internet business, probably somewhere around $200,000. If it was a business with big retail channels, like
You don't know shit about it.
Didn't know anything about it. This is another thing that at Kickfurther would be good for, because Kickfurther is for after you've made the sale, getting short-term financing, so you can get.
If we're building one thing, see, that's the thing. What do you think? How ridiculous do you think it is for me to stick with it and say what I will produce for the world is like a catalog of 8 dozen things, and it's a book. It's everything is there, and what we do is determined by only the people who buy it, and that's it. The rest of it is there in service. But like we actually allow the people who give us, who support us, to make the initial decision. You know, probably between maybe 3 major plans that really are like have come to stand out. Like we can do one of these 3 things. Like any one of them will probably lead to a successful business. But we're trying to be incredibly intelligent and perceptive here. Like what is best to start with? You know, make that case in front of this fucking judge, and the jury is the people. But that's really number one. You got people fighting for how to not blow this opportunity that we've created. Like part of it is the fact that it has options. That's why democracy is so powerful. It always has options, and it goes to a bunch of very smart people to choose from them and build the ones that subset demographics like and test them. We test things. You know, we do market proud research. And people are even people living in Las Vegas or in a universe city would still be people. They'd still remember for a couple generations what it was like to live right here. To say I now live in a hyper efficient city where the real rights that matter to me are fucking incredibly well protected. But I've sacrificed a lot of bullshit. Like there's a whole book of things that I've agreed to give up.
So you want to build it in Buffalo?
No. What? Something virtual? Or are we talking about?
No, Las Vegas. You got that.
No, Las Vegas is equatorial, Equasa. The Lake Continent.
What?
The Lake Continent?
The Lake
The Lake Continent. Las Vegas. Oh, well, yeah, sure. We could build it in Buffalo. I mean, virtually. We could build the virtual version of it. So I want to build these real board games. We went on that tangent. But I also, like, more and more and more think about the virtual version. Like, I think you need both. You don't need both. You could probably just build a virtual one. But I think a real-world board game produced by a company that's trying to be great in conjunction with a virtual reality situation, which is like that, but fucking amazing. Like, this one is physical and fun for people to play in the real world. It makes Monopoly and Risk look like shit. But it is factors different from, you know, the virtual Earth. Virtue Earth. Virtue Earth is a fucking name I never had. I like it. Like, it sounds like Virtual Earth. Virtue Earth. Like, how do you win this? Like, through virtue. Like, virtue, we don't know exactly what it is. One of the main things that gets you virtue credibility, or Virtue Earth credibility, is giving more. Like, giving away more. Like, I don't need this. I don't want this. I don't even want the rights to this. This will never matter to me. Like, some things, like, the more things that don't matter to you, the more compatible, I think, you become with other people. And the more you're willing to give.
I think that's true to an extent. I also think it needs harder to form a personal connection with other people. If nothing matters to you, then you have a very limited thing.
No thing matters. People matter more when nothing matters. My daughter used to say nothing matters for like a week, and I was freaking out about it. But what she was actually saying is no thing matters. We're not things.
Yeah.
So I was able to justify what she was saying and say she's not insane or depressed. Or like, oh my God, my daughter is going to be maybe worse than me.
But do you think that's actually what she meant? That no physical thing?
I don't fucking know. I don't. Was I conceived on the 4th of July? I don't know.
You can.
I'm going to pretend. I'm going to fucking pretend.
What's your birthday?
April 3rd, 1973.
April 3rd.
I want to make conceived on the 4th of July. I have a movie studio. I'll be like, listen, you know what I'm going to be? I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to, in weird movies. And I'm going to be animated most of the time. And my voice isn't anything special, but it doesn't have to be.
Ask your dad. Dad, was I conceived on the 4th of July?
Shouldn't fucking know. He was drunk. That's why I think he fucking conceived me on that day. I'm saying it's most likely if you're conceived around the 4th of July, you were conceived on the 4th of July. Mothers and fathers don't fuck that much when they have 2-year-old sons.
So my birthday is April 30th. So that puts me around, April 30th. August 30th. So that puts me around New Year's. Probably New Year's.
August 30th is your birthday?
August 30th. It must have been New Year's.
New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve. Ish. Ish.
Like KNEW? No. See, in the World Joker Tour, I'd be ashamed. Like, my bio would be like, oh, dude, that isn't good. Like, you're going to lose points. Like, just because you... We don't want you to be afraid to say stupid things, but they are going to cost you. Like, there cannot be a... Like, you can't just fucking say anything. There has to be a punishment. It's a game. I want to win. I mean, it makes it's a harmless game. We're on the same team.
If you actually want to do a comedy tour, however, you have sessions like this, and then you take the best things that come out of it. You look back and you say, okay, this, and this, I can use to appeal to a larger and maybe less silly crowd.
Or
maybe
you
it
know,
is a silly
more,
crowd.
more silly. I mean,
Or maybe it is
more
a
and
silly
less.
crowd.
More or less. More and or less. That'd be the name of my show. Like, if your show has to be called More and or Less, fine, okay, I'll go with it. Oh, you could. If I actually went to a real audience, I'd probably be like, listen, all right, I'm gonna start with one of you, and if it's great, we'll do a whole episode. If it's not great, someone else is coming out.
Way too many pistachios.
You put the shells back in the jar like Tia does.
I did. Well, there's no. If
Do you wash your hands before or after you take this?
After.
The answer is both. The correct answer is
Why
both.
both?
I mean, who was it that said? Is it Foreman? Or who might have been George Foreman? He said I wash my hands before I touch my dick. Like shaking people's hands, like you're gonna touch your dick.
That
You
makes
have to wash
sense.
your hands first. So you're putting
No.
your dirty hands on your dick, and then you're cleaning your hands to shake some other guy's hand, who's also gonna wash his hands after. It is safe to shake after, but there's a lot of other stuff in
Yeah,
between.
there's lots of other variables involved. Well,
There's
yeah.
a lot of dirt.
But
It's
you're
not
probably-
just in the bathroom.
You're probably just not gonna. You're not gonna get like some kind of dick disease.
I don't do it.
Hands.
Yeah, you might get something. I mean, I guess if we're not trying to worry too much about superbugs, I have antibiotic pockets. I don't care. I carry around, on average, what is it right now? 23,000 milliamp hours. I am automatically charged by my car. My belt is automatically charged by my backpack. I think that's about it, actually. I don't want to get too. But in
Have you seen those new magnetic chargers?
for what?
Like for everything. I mean, they're like it's something. This is a pretty good example of a magnetic charger. But there's
Well,
ones
what
that
are you
just have-
referencing specifically? Like a product
Well,
or a category? Like
I only saw like a part. It's not like a finished product, but it's
a
something
bus
like
in
this.
Britain?
But it's a no, it was like an Alibaba or something. But it's you have a cable and you have two magnetic contacts, two little studs, and then you just line them up. You know, they click in place. It's magnetic. The magnetism is strong. And then-
ZNAP's an existing product or no?
This is no,
Like
it's
where
an
you can just-
existing- yeah, it's like that.
Um,
Except that
but for your phone, like there's one for. I mean, there's a real product for a phone that's about to.
I mean, USB cable, two little studs, and then another device that's also 5 volt, and it just and you could make if this works well enough and it looks like it's legitimate. You could just make a little magnetic coupling that wouldn't have any kind of tension on it other than what you want.
Any kind of what on it?
Any kind of additional tension on it, so it wouldn't be plugged in firmly. If you want to take your backpack off, you just take your backpack off.
I have thought for many years that in the back of the backpack is a little flap that's kind of like those jelly iguanas you can throw at a wall. We'll climb down and it kind of will drop down when you put it on, and it will attach to the center of your belt. It'll swing around a little bit, but it'll tell you if it doesn't happen. You know, like it'll be like, dude, you're not even charging. You're playing this game. One of the conditions is you have to keep your belt full.
Wait, hold on a sec.
Your belt buys you 3 hours.
Do you
of
also have a smartwatch? Do you have a smartwatch with
Yeah,
the
no,
charging
a
state?
watch?
Yeah,
You have
watch.
smart watches.
Smartwatch. You have smartwatches.
You need to be
You have
symmetrical.
3 smartwatches and 3 different times.
Well, you also, I mean, you have rings, but it's like, what do you actually choose to do? Some people, this is not a great place for a controller, as far as I'm concerned.
No,
like
it's
here,
not.
this is the jointy space that I think is.
Speaking as a guy who tends to wear the shirt with a cuff on it.
Tough links?
The tough links. They're combat. Oh, yeah. I like the idea of combat cufflinks. And they're just a little bowling ball.
What are you going to keep in your in your cufflinks? I mean, remember, we're telling a story where we want the things in the story to kind of stand out and be like, we want to have maybe even commercials in our movie for the things that you saw, because otherwise you will start to not understand all the utility before the final scenes happen. Like, you won't know how the fuck did they do that. Like, watch the movie. Like, you'll see each of the necessary pieces that allows this fucking,
A conventional cufflink tends to be pretty small. Like, cufflinks are
I mean, like non-nuclear.
large.
Nuclear cufflinks, like probably a little bit. Non-conventional cufflinks.
Yeah, non-conventional cufflinks. Yes.
Pun conventional.
Yeah.
How many times has Paul said pun? What are the odds that Paul has said pun conventional?
I mean,
It's at least 50-50, maybe 98.
yeah, it's at least 50-50.
That's my superhero power, though. I can tell. I won't tell you what the answer is. I know what the answer is. Or I'm wrong. If he was here, I could look over his head and there's a game score, and it would tell me, like, has he said it or not? Just because his brain hears it, and if it doesn't have the reaction I'm expecting. Like, what if you went around and you're like, dude, I invented something, and I can, like, penetrate people's brains with microwaves, and they don't know. Yes, all the people that I meet are going to die of fucking brain cancer, like, within 3 years. But they thought I was a prophet.
What are you
On TV, people are like, dude, what? He's like Trump. Like, why in person is he so charismatic? Like, he's reading your fucking mind with x-rays and you're done.
What are you doing for income tax this year? Have you filed?
I got back 25. I had my only job in many years. May, June, July, August, September. Was paid a couple of small checks. I think my total income was $8,000. I think I got $2,500 back.
You probably get EIC for the kids.
I don't think so. Tia claims them, so I'm not really sure if I would get that. My father paid someone probably a little bit too much to do my taxes. I do wonder, what does he lose? Can he still claim me as a dependent, having made $8,500 this year?
If he provides greater than half of your support.
He does. So he doesn't lose in a tax basis.
No.
Is it? See, I told him years ago what he should have done is started a nonprofit.
Well, if you have investment income, it gets complicated. There's something that comes into play that's referred to as the kitty tax.
Me or him?
If you have investment
I don't.
somebody is claiming it.
I don't. That doesn't matter.
That includes investment income from passive activity in an S corp or an LLC. And if he wants to continue claiming you for that passive income, then that's an additional consideration.
What does he get? He spends $30,000 a year to keep me alive, which allows me to work freely. What is this? How does that affect his tax situation? Say he makes $100,000 a year, and he gives me 30 of it.
It might not. It might not affect his tax situation.
You can't write me as a dependent. There's not some.
No. You get, so for a dependent, the biggest thing that you get is for an adult dependent, what you would get is a personal exemption. So $3,500 that you don't pay any tax on.
That's it.
Yep.
Somewhere.
And it's a deduction. It's not a credit. So it's $3,500. I don't know what it's more than that this year. It's something like.
It's just they don't tax you on a little bit of money. They don't tax you on 30.
Exactly.
Or they lower. Does that take you? Can that take you out of a bracket, or brackets determined by like your gross?
Bracket is determined. It's the way a bracket works is all the money after this bracket until you hit the next bracket is taxed at the higher rate. So
yeah, but what if the deductions move you? Where are you calculating? After the deductions, is that your bracket, or like can it switch by applying?
The way it works is you have
apply first, right?
Initially, you have the 10% bracket, so you have this block of money that's taxed at 10%, and then after that, after the first $8,000 or so, you have the 15% bracket, and then the next however many $1,000 is taxed at 15%. So you pay 10% on the first $8,000, you pay 15% on the next, $8,000. You're not all taxed. You're not taxed at all the same rates. You're taxed at on the total. You're taxed at this rate on this money, and you're taxed at this rate on the next few $1,000.
Right. Who does that? A computer does that, right? I mean, it's not a person like a piece of paper that's calculated.
Not anymore.
You calculate it yourself, send it in. They assume that you're telling the truth, unless they edit
No,
you.
they know. They know what the number is, because if you have a
What if you make a little mistake and their number's different? They say, "Oh, it's close. We'll reconcile." Like
nobody makes a mistake unless they're still doing their technical
exact
paper.
numbers by like.
Yeah, but to the dollar.
Oh, like if a receipt goes in, it goes in as this, but it's not all electronic, is it? Not. I
Well,
mean,
it's not calendar by the calendar day or the calendar year or the month that it's calculated. It's not chronological. It's $30,000. You take $8,000 out of that. You tax it at 10%. Add $800 to your total tax, and then of that, the rest of it, the next $22,000 is all in 15% brackets. You multiply that $22,000 by 15%. You add that to the $800 for the first $8,000, and that's your tax. And
now
that's it.
okay, so where's the tax bracket that changes between 20 and 70? Like, where is it jumping there?
I think the next one
35
up is 20. No, you're not at 35. 35 is up there. 35 is like 230 plus.
What is the number around 35?
It's between 230 and 435 or something like that, and then there's 39.6, which is a about.
I was 39.6 because I was paid for 12 weeks in 1 week. I got one
No.
paycheck.
No,
I was taxed at
you
40. It says it on the check. It said I'm taxed at 39% or I calculated. I got it all back. That's why I got $2,500 in a return.
It sounds like they overwithheld.
They did. That's why I got $2,500 back.
See,
Working for $8,000, I shouldn't get $2,500 in taxes back.
Well, yeah.
I overpaid tremendously because I thought I was a big earner.
Yeah,
get
because you got
one
one
check.
big check. Yeah, and
But he figured that out. I'm sure. Maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe if somebody
well,
didn't.
how did they write it as if it was a weekly paycheck or a semi-weekly paycheck?
I don't know. It was a paycheck from Ashker's. I don't know how they fucking did it. What about like how much can you minimize taxes in this country? Like generally speaking, like
You can
do benefits count the same as paid salary? Like this,
no.
if you
And
give
you
somebody a
don't.
house as part of your business, or they don't own it, you just let them stay there. How does
That's complicated. Lodgings
Is it
are
cheaper?
Complicated. It is cheaper, yes.
considerably?
Okay, so are they paying into it or no?
No, they work for it's part their compensation package is no money. It's a
I-
house. It's like there's no money that's handed from the company to a person ever.
I think you could write that as a pre-tax benefit. You could write that as a pre-tax benefit so that they're staying there and they're
But they change rules to get you if you became like we played within the system.
If
We
it-
saved all
if
this
it-
fucking money.
for now.
But now
They-
you want
they
to
could.
now you want to hit us up, and guess what? We'll fucking that could be interesting. Like build it in America, and then literally fucking leave. Like we're not going to Las Vegas to ask them for some tax breaks. We're gone. Like, we have a model. We have fans. Like our individual members, even if we disassemble our city, still have access to this. So in the meantime, like there'll be a whole different amazing thing that happens on the internet from like a million motherfuckers to the rest of the world. We'll move to the fucking desert like Jim Jones, and you'll not like him, and you'll call us a
No,
cult,
not like Jim Jones.
and you'll call us a cult, and we'll say no, we're a cult, sure. Like we're sure before you. Eventually, cults become cultures if they're successful. We're sure now. Like we're not a cult. We're a fucking culture. We're going to succeed. Like we're going to be one of the different cultures in the future history of the earth. We're just people who chose to join a specific culture as a union to protect our freedoms and rights.
Yes, well, there's, I think we tend to form in-groups readily, and in-groups only scale so much because people get clicky really quickly. So factions form quickly within organizations. They sensibly have the same goal.
We have to take advantage of that.
Any kind of power. You give employees voting rights, for instance, in faction reform. You have pro-union and anti-union, and pro-benefits and anti-benefits. You have people who want salary, and you have people who want benefits.
How many people would we need with like 6 months to work to speculate and find those factions and loosely sketch them out? I mean, you could do market research, but
I
if
have
we had,
no idea.
12 people would be better than me and you. 3,600 people would probably be better than that group.
I'm interested in the idea of doing massive market research where you have a firm that has access to 1 million people who are members who get some kind of benefits from the firm, and maybe they're employees, maybe they're partners in a massive partnership.
Unemployees.
I like that. There's actually a
Unemployees.
term for that. It's called a statutory non-employee.
Unemployee is like
not
more
what we're talking
trademarkable.
about. There's another salesmen are statutory non-employees.
So if they were unemployed and unemployees, there's a lot of people out there that are unemployed that are not stupid people, and if they read your mission statement or watched your mission videos and were like, I'll do this, like I'm unemployed. Then you could say, all right, with all the free time that you do have after you do your virtual work for us, now you speculate. Now you create economic prophecies. Now you go into an animated virtual reality and create machinima, which is like theater trying to advance a vision for the future. Like, yes, you're going to serve existing companies and do work, but there's going to be a lot of free time because intellectually you're extremely valuable as a group, and we don't pay you a lot. You do this because you need some resources now, but you also want to have a great job in the future. So we can hire you for like $400 a week in America if you're willing to give us your mind, and you have enough credibility.
And that might be a reasonable number.
It's kind of weird. I mean, the whole thing. But once you do it, if you get a network, Facebook is masturbation in so many ways. But if you have a network with a purpose, I mean, I think you got to keep it basic. If you say, "Oh, there's everyone here is on one page," it can't be a poster the size of that window printed in microfiche that needs to be read through a telescope. It has to be 50 words or something, or like the first page might be 12 words. I might try to write them tonight, but I won't. And then the next page might have 36 words, and then it might fucking branch. Be like, you need to be on the same first page. Everyone in this business and in this vision is on that same page. Our main goal is making sure to end systematic war forever because it's the greatest unnecessary expense. That's not actually the case, I don't think. But you could say that. Like, if we can end war systematically by unionizing and using our minds and the minds of our geniuses, then how much money is fucking left over to make life better so we don't fight? At least speculate.
In addition to the market research stuff, we could actually impose some kind of ideological goal on the participants, and you agree that this is not for anything to work out.
You need to give a vision. That's the thing you need to do. You need to be a dictator of your own ideology.
Well, a lot of that stuff is about scale. It can be hard to dictate.
Oh, the mixing is ridiculous. I mean,
over. I need to get going here in a minute because I have stuff that needs to be filed before midnight. Actually, it needs to be accepted before midnight, so it needs to be in there significantly before.
All right, closing statement.
Closing statement. I think we need a massively multiplayer market research company.
Investment network?
Market research partnership. With
market pre-search?
Maybe
market pre-search.
Pre-search might be good.
I was like,
I think we need a. I can find out about the details as far as the legal structure is concerned, and it's often not expensive to do things like this. So if you wanted to create a partnership and then issue membership units, multiple classes of membership units, so one of them would be a controlling class of membership units, and then the other ones would just be able, if he elected to receive profits. Everyone will have to send it for electronic delivery of K1s, schedules K1, because they need to send a tax statement for anything they received.
No profits, only payments to workers, I think, and investment. It's either going to you in cash from us, or it's going into the company that you are a democratic administrator of and would you elect a president for, but he has no vote. One or the other.
Voting rights are difficult, but I think some kind of employee representation is a good idea. I think it's a good idea.
I don't think people in the right situation are stupid. I think voting rights in a great many cases are amazing. I don't think that the something of the commons, the fucking the moron of the commons.
The alternative is also there's also wisdom for masses, or mob wisdom, or whatever that term is. It's you have a large number. If you have a jar full of jelly beans, and you ask a bunch of people how many jelly beans.
They'll get the number. Or how close did I get?
You take all of them. You take the median. You take the mean average, and both of them are close. Both of them are very close. Within 5.
The weird thing is, well, then you are figuring out an average, but in some sense, even in the future history of business, I think in a way, some products you might actually want to produce for the average. Like if you have a desk for your kids and it has an arch, you might want the one that is purposable in the most possible ways, like that kind of average, like where it is a singular product and not much fucking changes in the track that accepts the various appliances, but after that, then it becomes specializable by them because that's the era we live in.
I kind of like the idea of a modular desk because I find that, for many years, I didn't want the filing cabinet. I really didn't want the filing cabinet. And now a filing cabinet would make sense because I have all these people's records through taxes. But obviously it wouldn't be built into the desk. But how am I going to put it otherwise?
They have auto scanning file cabinets. I mean, like you put it in, it scans, and it goes into a.
Cool. You just put.
For a business, it might not. It's like an Amazon warehouse in micro scale.
So you put in a folding or a hanging file. You push the hanging file to the back, or a piston pushes the hanging file to the back, and then it takes the last page and it just feeds them through like an ADF scanner.
And I wouldn't even know if you need a hanging file. I was just thinking you just put them on a fucking tray, and they're pulled in, they're scanned, they're time date stated, they're uploaded to Democracy, so we verify.
Well, it wouldn't be a filing cabinet, but ADF scanners exist, automatic scanners.
I thought you liked the filing cabinet.
I need one, unfortunately.
But I mean, like, but what if I had one, like an extra one, and it automatically you just put every
That would
you
be
just
great.
fed them in,
I would.
and and chronological, like you could search it, you could. I mean, reorganizing it might require a lot of motions. If there was only one arm, like reorganizing, but you could be like for days, you'd be like, it's fucking what's it? It's compiling or whatever. Like my hard drive is indexing. It's fucking indexing. But for me, the best filing cabinet, maybe not for you because you probably deal with a lot of documents, is a global Rolodex. Like inside of our game board, we are hiding a Rolodex. Like the Globe book opens with 3 pieces that are like where the lines on a Mercedes sign are not, and they pop off magnetically. And inside there is a fucking never-ending book with 365 pages, which are actually binders, and each day has its own. And and that would be easier because you could just feed in. It would just turn, and when it locked on 332, it would go right in, and wherever you turned it, it would feed. Like
It's good.
that would be hundreds of dollars. But we'd be like, if you're rich, like if you make 150, 170 grand a year, and your kid wants this, and it's $640, like maybe you seriously fucking consider investing in our company.
I kind of do like the idea of a giant Rolodex.
It's fucking crazy.
Useful.
Inside of a board game, inside of like on a fucking globe.
On
I
a
mean,
global risk.
it sits there and you're like, what is that? It's a beautiful fucking globe. That's what it is. There's not something in it. There's not a book inside. It's not magnetic. You can't throw darts at it. It's a filing cabinet, ass hat.
Okay,
So you have real work to do.
I need a GTFO. I do.
All right, send me a text in the next 36 hours. One thing,
Sure.
not including the live virtual reality and the satellite that looks upon the Earth and makes it into a fucking gorgeous game. Not that,
Okay.
or that.
Okay.
All right, see you, Paul. Thanks.
I actually would like to look into the partnership detail because if you wanted to do, if you think you could gather an internet audience that would be willing to do market research for,
Pre-search. It's pre-search. It really is.
well, yeah, that's
We'll do some research too, but we're not researching.
Well-
We're searching. It's market search.
research sounds actually like a good name. You know, just a thought there.
When are we doing? A couple weeks? Let me know what you think is the ideal like average space between episodes. A week, 2, 3. 4.
2 weeks. 2 weeks is probably good. Things are settling down a little bit for me, so 2 weeks is, or even a week might be good.
Maybe 4 hours every 2 weeks, and I'll find enough people to fill 40 hours a week.
Sounds good.
Recommend anyone that you have on Facebook if there's anyone who you think could sit down with me and work.
Absolutely.
All right, see ya. Drive safe.
I will take care.
See ya, Paul.